Great idea. We might do that tonight. Very well. Do you guys post to Reddit often? Hell yeah. And smooth sailing. Everybody knows the last 400 hours are the easiest. I expect it. It's his loss if he doesn't. He really wants to pump that Tesla stock. He'll be here. I find it interesting listening to those Joe Rogans with Elon Musk, where they're talking about Twitter and now he owns it. Yeah, I check it every couple hours for like 5 minutes. And it's like another thing I find interesting is he didn't have any other social media aside from Twitter. So you could tell, I mean, he's liked it for some time. And thankfully he did. He changed the entire, made it much more free space haven. And I think those are all positive things for the platform. Yeah, I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. Pardon my ignorance, but can you buy NFTs on the Wall Street Bets Baby coin? Not to put down any other coins of which I've had any interaction, but this one definitely is the biggest. Has I think the most amount of foresight, and I really think is in a good spot to be the next Pepe. Roger, I take it you're on Eastern time. Is that correct? Are you a Pistons, Lions, Tigers fan? You poor thing. Yeah, I mean, but I, very nice. I've been to Comerica Park. It's very nice. That's right. After that, though, you can take it as many as you want to this quarantine to the moon. Take care. Music's difficult, at least for me to play, because I've got so many streams going, and the copyright infringement can mess with my accounts. If you want, I can continue where we were in that Joe Rogan podcast, and you just mute me when more people here. Very well. There you go.
We're terrified of this disease and projected could potentially kill 100, if not 200,000 Americans this year. Cigarettes kill 500,000. And you don't hear a peep out of any politician. There's no one running for Congress who's trying to ban cigarettes. There's no one running for Senate that wants to put some education plan in place that's going to stop cigarettes in their tracks.
Yeah, I mean, a long time ago, several years ago, I helped make a movie called Thank You for Smoking.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah. It's crazy. Smoking is probably getting lungs is probably just bad. So it's not good. Trying to get lungs is smoke weed. It's a Tylenol also, by the way. It's a good vehicle.
What is the number for Tylenol?
I'm not sure the exact number, but I believe until the opioid crisis, Tylenol was the number one of all drugs, because basically it's if you get drunk and take a lot of Tylenol, acetaminophen essentially so people would like get wasted and then like have a headache and pop a ton of Tylenol.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but nobody's like, raging against Tylenol.
Yeah. It's weird. Acceptable deaths are weird. That's the real slippery slope about this. People shaming people for wanting to go back to work. Other people are going to die. Well, if you drive, do you drive? Well, you should stop driving because people die from driving. So you definitely should fill up all the swimming pools because like 50 people die every day in this country from swimming. So let's not swim anymore.
What is the really dangerous?
We need to chop down all the coconut trees. Water. Coconuts kill 150 people every year.
Yes.
Cut down all the coconut trees. We need those people.
Yes.
It's at a certain point in time, it's like, we're vulnerable, and we're also
nobody lives forever.
right.
I mean, I think you want to look at say as like the but for this disease, whatever, they would have lived X number of years.
Yeah.
So if somebody dies when they're 20, but they would have lost 60 years. If somebody dies when they're 80, they would have lived 80 years.
Yeah.
So it's like how many life years are lost.
I don't read my own comments, but I do read other people's comments. And I was reading this one little Twitter beef that was going on where someone was saying that COVID takes an average of 10 years off people's lives, and we should appreciate those 10 years. And then someone else said, I'm sure it's not true, it's the Twitter, it's word about it, but someone else said the average age of people who die from COVID is older than the average age people die.
It's varies. Just say it's like it's about the same.
That's a beautiful way of looking at it. I mean, it's unfortunate. It sucks, but it sucks if Grandpa dies of Alzheimer's or emphysema or leukemia. It sucks. It sucks when someone you love dies.
Yeah.
I
mean, actually, if this, I think a lesson to be taken here that I think is quite important is that if you have great-grandparents, major grandparents, really be careful with any kind of urgent something that is not dangerous to kids or adults, and is dangerous to so it basically, if your kids go to running things, they should stay away from their grandparents. Yeah, no matter what it is. It's the things that are where the immune system is no longer an older is problem. Yeah. In fact, a lot of the deaths are just literally it's tragic, but they're intrafamily. It's the get at it. Well, this is no big deal, but it's just important to remember when you get older. It's just not that's right. And so just be careful with it.
And I think there is some true objective understanding of the immune system and ways to boost that immune system. And I really think that information should be distributed in a way, a non-judgmental way. Like this is a way that we can all. This is a scientific way to boost our immune system. It might save your life. It might save the life of your loved ones. We can teach this our grandparents, our parents, and people who are vulnerable. Vitamin C, heat shock proteins, all these different variables that we know contribute to a stronger immune system.
Yeah, actually, just the thing that is tough. Like when you as you get older, it's harder to put on weight. Yeah, that's happened to me. Like as I get older again, That's for sure. And so actually being overweight is a big deal. Yeah, just it's a bad.
The New York hospital said it was the number one factor for severe COVID symptoms was obesity.
That's
one
right.
factor.
That's yes. Exactly.
But it's also we live in a world where people want to be sensitive to people's feelings. So
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
don't want to bring up the fact that being fat's bad for you. It's a judgment on your
Food's great.
yeah. I do love food.
Yeah, and I mean to be totally frank, speaking for myself, I'd rather eat tasty food than live a shorter life. Yeah.
Yeah, those moments of enjoying a great meal, and then even talk about it, they're valuable, they're worth something. Yeah, it's not. We don't want to eat Soylent Green until 160.
Tasty food is great. It's
Yeah.
the best thing about life.
It really is. Yeah, and it's our form as well. It's sandcastle. It's temporary. It doesn't last very long, but there's something about it that's very pleasing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe smaller, have tasty food, but smaller amounts of it.
Yes. Yeah, and I think regulated feeding windows would be some sort of intermittent fasting approach.
Sure.
When I started doing that, I found myself to be quite a bit healthier, but I've deviated from that deeply.
So you have points with
Right, and then I count out. I usually hit the stopwatch on the phone, and I look at 15 hours in before I can eat.
yeah.
And so anything in between that is just water and coffee.
Actually, no, like this goes maybe a little bit faster. But eating before you go to bed is really bad. I actually take it consciously.
Yeah.
And actually forwards hardware that you're going to use and subtle hardware fixtures horizontal.
Yeah.
Body's digesting. So if you're going for good quality of sleep and you know, maybe nothing, it's too money, right?
Yeah.
It's one of those things you do.
Some of the biggest mistakes I've ever made. I've done that, particularly after comedy shows. I'm starving. I'll come home and I'll eat, and I go to bed. Just feel like shit. Wake up in the middle of the night.
It's gonna crush your sleep, and it's gonna damage your probably your cycles. So in fact, drinking and then going to sleep is actually one of the worst things.
Yes.
So just try to avoid drinking and booze. Yeah, that's exactly. Small amounts of alcohol that evidence suggests it's not.
I put it in the same category as delicious food. It kind of makes things a little more fun.
Yeah,
I like it.
I mean, some of the people live pockets.
Yeah.
Small ones. But yeah, this is like I like this part of the time. Just avoid having alcohol and really at least 2 or 3 hours before sleep. Quality of sleep. It's a big deal.
Do you have time to exercise?
A little bit.
Do you train?
I do. I haven't seen it for a while, but yeah, especially I'm like, so or like I'm working I got to love running. I don't know.
What do you like to do exercise?
To be totally frank, I wouldn't exercise more. But if I prefer not to exercise, but I'm going to exercise and lift some weights. And then kind of run and maybe watch the show. You know, if there's a compelling show that I'm closing.
Right. Yeah, that's a good thing to do. Yeah. watching a movie.
Yeah.
Like some Black Mirror or something like that.
Man, don't watch Black Mirror before going to bed either.
Don't watch Black Mirror today. It's too fucking accurate.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, wait, this already happened in real life.
Yeah, they're too close.
It's too close.
Well, even Jamie, did you say that the guy who makes Black Mirror? Yeah, he wants to hold off because reality
nailed it.
is Black Mirror.
Oh man,
It's like he's gonna have to like reassess and attack it from a different angle.
yeah.
You should try something that's fun to do. That's not just like
Yeah. I did the taekwondo, I did the karate, packaging bag, karate, and judo.
I'll say you really branched out.
Yeah. And the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Did you? Where?
Hello.
Really? Oh, no shit. I was gonna suggest that. That's a great thing for people. Like, it's a thing about jiu-jitsu. If you look at it from the outside, you think, oh, a bunch of meatheads strangle each other. Yeah, but there's some of the smartest people I know, jiu-jitsu fans, because they first of all, they get introduced to it because usually either they want to exercise or learn some self-defense, or then they realize that it's essentially like a language with your body. Like you're having an argument with someone with some sort of physical language. And it's really complex, and more access to vocabulary, and the sharper your words are, the more you succeed in these ventures.
Yeah.
It's really almost an accurate analogy of what jiu-jitsu is.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, probably like a lot of people, but the way what really the posted in 8 months, voice space, and it was like incredible.
Yeah,
it was like this like
technique.
Yeah. It was like, winning is.
It was what martial arts were supposed to be when we were kids.
Yeah.
When you saw Bruce Lee fuck up all these big giant guys, like, wow, martial arts allow you to beat someone far bigger and stronger than you.
Right.
Most of the time, that's not real.
Especially if they know martial arts.
Yeah. Shit.
Yeah.
This guy's being pinned by this big giant wrestler. He wraps his legs around his neck and chokes him to the point the guy has to surrender.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing. Horse got beaten pretty bad in some of those.
Well, he definitely had some rough fights.
But he won.
He won. But he's a legend. And what it showed, and I mean, I'm a huge lover of jiu-jitsu. What it showed is that there is a method for diffusing these situations with technique and knowledge. And I think it's also a great way to exercise too, because it's almost like the exercise is secondary to the learning of the thing. The exercise is like you want to develop strength and conditioning just so that you can be better at doing the thing. And the analogy that I use is like, if you had a race car and you could actually give the race car better handling and more horsepower just from your own focus and effort. That's really what it's like.
Yeah.
When am I going to
my kids, I should say, I sent my kids to jiu-jitsu since they were like 6.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. It's a great thing to learn. It really is. Yeah. Maybe something like, even if you just have someone who hits the whole pads for you, get a workout in and be fun. When am I going to be able to buy one of the roasters? What's that happening?
Well, I can't, say exactly when, but we're going to get it. Let's go with things kind of finish for
Sure.
Let's play everything. Something since those back. The main things we're going to get done. I had a roadster. Get wrapping up my production. Getting the well and getting my grading built. Getting Hispanic voice manufacturers and get the salvage rights and semi-trucks. The road is kind of like the zoo. So Like we gotta get like
The roast comes before Cybertruck.
I mean, I think we should do something. And there's
I'm not mad at that.
So some of the things for Roadster, they're the triangle of that powertrain. We're gonna have that. So that's like one of the ingredients that's in
I wanted to ask you about this before I forgot. There's a company that's called Apex that's taking your Teslas and they're doing wider base, wider tires, and a little bit more advanced suspension. How do you feel about that?
That sounds good to me.
With them? Are you cool with those people?
Yeah, I'm in. Go ahead.
They're jazzing stuff up in carbon fiber and doing a bunch of interior choices. You're cool with it? You can't fuck with that. You don't have time. So is it good that someone comes along and has
Yeah, I
some
guess
sort of special
yeah.
That's what it's called, right? It's like JMA? It's called Apex? That's right. Unplugged.
Yeah, you can for sure tighten the car up and to the tire traction.
Have you seen that company's stuff? What they do?
I don't know specifically, but
It's pretty dope.
yeah.
They make it pretty dope. They take Model S and they widen it, keep a bunch of carbon fiber, and that's it right there.
That's pretty nice.
Now the plaid version of the Model S, are you going to widen the track and do a bunch of different? I know you guys are testing the urban grid. Can you not talk about that?
Well, I think we got to leave that for proper sort of product unveil.
I understand. Last time you were here, you convinced me to buy a Tesla. I bought it. It's fucking insane.
Oh, right.
Man, I don't. It's not just pretty fun. It's like the way I've described it is it makes the car seem stupid. It just seemed dumb. Like I love dumb things. I love dumb cars. Like I love campfires.
Yeah,
I love campfires. I have a 1993 Porsche that's air cooled.
Sure.
It's like it's not that fast. It's really slow compared to Tesla.
Yeah, it's really quite slow.
Yeah, but there's something engaging about the mechanical. It's just like the gears. It's very analog, but it's so stupid in comparison to Tesla. Like when I want to go somewhere in the Model S, I hit the gas, it just goes whee.
Yeah.
It like violates time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
yeah, you've tried it like Ludicrous Plus.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
We just did a software update where we do a cheetah stance. So so it's got the dynamic air suspension, so it lowers the bank. Yeah, just like a sprinter, basically.
Right.
Like what do you do for a sprinter? You hunker down, and then I shaved like 10 seconds, 0.6. I mean, like it is pretty fun.
It's so. I've taken so many people. I'm like, I take them for the holy shit moment. I'm like, you ready? Like, hang on there. I stomp on the gas.
I've never felt it like it.
It's confusing.
Yeah,
it really is. Sure. The instant torque, and just the sheer acceleration is baffling.
It's baffling. They've never felt it.
No,
it's faster than pulling.
It's crazy. It's so fast. It's a roller coaster. Yeah. And my family yells at me when I stop the gas. Like I'm telling kids, you want to feel it? You want to feel it? Like do it. My wife's like, don't do it.
Yeah, it's like having a roller coaster on top.
It really is like a roller coaster on top. Yeah, without the loop-to-loops, but it's the hitting to your seat. It seems like you're not supposed to be able to experience that from some sort of consumer vehicle that you can just a regular person can buy if they have the money. It seems too crazy. And then the idea this Roadster is a half of a second faster than that.
Yeah,
that's madness.
Well, with the Roadster, we're going to do some things that are kind of unfair. So we're going to take some things from kind of like rock and roll. So.
Oh, I read about that. Explain that. What do you do?
Well, like I said, can't unveil right here, but it's going to do some things that are unfair. And when we do the unveil of the Roadster, let me just say that anyone who's waiting, they won't be sorry. They won't be sorry.
Oh, sure. Anything that goes 0 to 60, was it 1.9? Is that the 0 to 60?
That's the basic.
What's the top of the food chain model? Okay. Faster than that. She said faster. That seems so crazy. Now, what was it like when the dude threw those steel balls at the window and they were supposed to not break and it broke?
Well, yeah.
I know it's
That's
circumstances.
Our, you know that our demos were authentic. So I was not expecting that, and then I uttered under my breath.
Yeah. You didn't get mad though.
No,
You didn't Steve Jobs it.
no, I definitely swore. But I and but so like we practice this, behind the scenes. It has. We don't do like tons of practice for our demos because we're working on the cars, like we building new technologies and defining products. So we're not spending it like hundreds of practice things. We're not but the average is an hours before the demo. Both runs, client and in the studio throwing steel balls at the window and just bounce right over. We're like, okay, see, pretty good. So we got it. Okay. And then we think what happened was that when Franz hit the door with the sledgehammer, sort of like this is like exoskeleton, ice cream carton seal. We literally take wind up with the sledgehammer, full on double-handed sledgehammer, and hit the door, and there's not even a dent. It's cool. But we think that cracked the corner of the glass at the bottom. And then once you crack the corner of the glass, then you just gave up. So then when you threw the bowl, that's
so in hindsight, it didn't go through. That's true. That's true. It didn't shatter the whole thing right in the window with either, which would just dissolve. Right. So in hindsight, the ball should have been first, sledgehammer second. Listen, man, we've taken up a lot of your time. You had a child recently. It's amazing that you had the time to come down here, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate everything you do, man. I'm glad you're out there, and I really appreciate you coming down here and sharing your perspective.
Well, I think you got a great show. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure. Elon Musk, ladies and gentlemen. Good night.
Roger, you want me to just keep rolling and you just mute me when everybody's here?
Ben Shapiro, we are live.
We're going to go to Neil deGrasse Tyson next.
Well, thank you for having me. Thanks for being here, man. I became a fan of yours when I watched you.
This is Joe Rogan Experience 1159, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Hi. How's the wife? How's the wife and kids?
Buddy, man. How's life? How's your book? It's been on the Times bestseller list for how many weeks?
Well, the astrophysics for people in a hurry. That's on the New York Times bestseller list for 67 weeks.
That's pretty intense.
It's great. That's a lot for any book, much less for a science book. And so that tells me, while all these Trump books are wafting in and out, this is bobbing like a cork on the ocean waves as the book of the moment that either praises Trump or criticizes him come in and off of that list. So this tells me that there is this unserved book that people have. There's a curiosity that this is serving. And if the astrophysics for people in a hurry, that's very purposefully juxtaposed. It's like neurosurgery in 4 easy steps. If you saw a book with that title, you'd have to pick it up because you wonder what's going on.
Well, not to kiss your ass again, but I always say this about you, and I think it's important. You make learning stuff about astrophysics fun, and that's what's missing. It's not that people don't like to be educated, that they don't like to learn. They just don't want to be bored.
That's a perceptive point because, think of the image we have of, let's say, you're in a school where most people don't go to college, but we're in high school, and then last day of school comes. What do people do? They toss their papers in the air. Summer wasn't forever, forever. Right. So that attitude must mean the school didn't train you to embrace curiosity.
Right.
Over.
Yeah.
So I think the educational system needs an adjustment. Forget whether or not you go to college, because you're going to spend more years not in school than in school, even if you do go to college. What you want, I think, are lifelong learners, lifelong curiosity.
Yes.
Where once you are trained and your curiosity is stimulated, curiosity we all had as children. Your children don't need to be taught to be curious. They are curious to the point of destruction of whatever it is they touch. Oh, what is this egg on the counter? What is this glass? What is this plate? What's under a rock? What happens when I pull a leg off of Daddy Long's? They are experimenting with the world. We don't think of it that way. That's what it is. They're all born scientists. And I say this often. You spend the first years of a child's life teaching him to walk and talk. And you spend the rest of his life telling it to shut combination. So speaking as an educator, I think a missing component of school is it the teachers? Is it the curriculum? I don't know. But when you get out of school, you should say to yourself, damn, I want to learn more.
It's almost universally accepted, too, that that's when your learning ends. When you get out of college, it's over.
And you say you're done. Yeah. And if it does, then you're ossified in life.
Yeah.
And that's how, when the job market shifts, you're not ready for it because you don't know how to think. You don't know how to learn.
Right.
And it's the difference in the workplace between the person who gets an assignment. Say, Joey, Janet, I need you to do this. That's not in my job description. I'm not trained for this. That's one kind of person in the workplace. Another kind of person is, here's a new task I need you to do. Wow, I've never seen that before. Great, let me figure it out.
Right.
These are two completely different species of human being. And what the world needs more of is like the second case, where you take a new task and you say, wow, I get to learn on my own. I'll ask people who know more. You just embrace the act of learning to satisfy your curiosity. And I think this book is capturing that in public.
Well, it must be doing something.
Yeah.
60, how many weeks?
67 weeks. Yeah.
That's a lot of weeks.
Yeah, every morning I wake up, I'm calm, but I'm really not calm. I'm saying, holy shit. Sorry, you're live. Can I say that?
You can say holy shit.
I can say it, okay.
Ross Tyson swears, ladies and gentlemen. People think you're a robot, now they know. It's a great sign, I think. And I think your podcast is a great sign as well. The success of your podcast and the success of a lot of science podcasts.
That's an excellent note. Yeah. Did you notice that? There's a rise of science-curious podcasts out there.
Stuff to blow your mind is one that I really enjoy.
Right.
I really love Radio Lab. They've always got really interesting science.
The annual perennial favorite.
Fantastic.
So many people.
Probably the best.
Right.
Yeah, and yours as well. And I love Chuck Nice. Shout out to Chuck Nice.
Oh, Chuck. We all love Chuck.
He's great. But what you're doing is you're making learning interesting, and that's why it's so fun. It's there's excitement to it. And you bring a comedian like Chuck on with you. Things get silly, but they're also curious, and you're getting these experts, and everyone's talking about these various subjects. And
as you know, not only yourself as an exemplar of this, stand-up comedians are some of the smartest people in the world. They have
I won't go that far. Listen, come to the Comedy Store with me today. I'll change your mind.
Let me buffer that a little.
They're curious.
Okay, no. So stand-up comedians are perceptive people.
Yes,
and for sure, and they're aware. They notice things that you don't notice. They see the same things you do and get to shape it in a way you never thought possible, and then you end up laughing at other things at yourself.
Was it your idea to do your show with stand-ups?
So what we had there's several of us who created this concept, and there's Helen Mansos is one of the partners, and there's another one who's now left, but I forget his name, but there were three of us who, David Gamble, three of us got together and applied for the National Science Foundation grant. What we said was, there are programs out there that serve people who already know they like the science, but who serves the people who don't know they like science? Better yet, the people who know they don't like science. There's nothing for them because they've already rejected it. They're not going in to Science Friday because they don't like science on NPR, right? So what we thought was, suppose we bring in a celebrity. That's the pop culture. This is the pop culture scaffold. We bring in the scaffold and clad the scaffold with science. Because whatever the celebrity does, it doesn't matter. There's going to be science in that person's life. We had the guy who portrayed Gollum in Lord of the Rings.
A lot of science in that. There is. Like that suit that he had to wear.
Exactly. So what we did was we interviewed him and we talked about the technology necessary to portray Gollum. He portrayed that live. That was not some later animation. He is live. And he's got his whole body wired up for this. And he is that voice and he is portraying it. So whatever it is that you have done, that you do, there is science, because it's evidence that science is everywhere. You can't say, I'm done with science, let me sell my textbook and move on to other things. Because practically anything else you do has been touched by science. And so Star Talk is a celebration of that. And then it jumped species. And so we're on TV now. All right? There's a TV show on National Geographic Channel, Star Talk. And since you started this, but I didn't come here to talk about you, but you started this. It's our fourth year in a row we're nominated for an Emmy for outstanding information program.
Are you going to keep doing Cosmos too, though?
So Cosmos. So I have 1 week remaining out of like 70 shoot days to finish shooting Cosmos, Possible Worlds, premiering spring 2019. That's the third installment of Cosmos. If you trace the first one to Carl Sagan back in 1980.
I used your segment on wolves, on how wolves became dogs.
Oh,
I showed it to my kids.
And that's right.
I can see a little wheel spinning, like, whoa.
Yeah,
That's how a dog became a dog?
And what you didn't see is I'm sitting at the campfire in the snowy environment. They have wolves walking around me. They're on these fishing wires. Because they are not dogs.
Right.
Okay? They
whatever the fuck they want.
Correct.
Yeah.
And when they're looking at you, it's like, should I rip his neck out now or later when I'm more hungry?
Right.
There's no eye contact with them because they don't see you as anything other than something they could possibly eat. And so you can't interact with them the way you would with ordinary dogs. So they're on these fishing, high tension fishing wires that you can't see against the snow. And they're like hooting and hollering around me as I described. And the name of that show is And the Wolf Shall Become the Show. Yeah.
My friend did a commercial, Wolf, and it's this commercial where he's running up this mountain and the wolf is there. And at the end of the commercial, they had to get the wolf to snarl. So what the trainer does is he shows the wolf some meat and then he pulls the meat away from the wolf. And the wolf snarls and then the commercial's over. He's like, no, there's no working after that. Like, there's no, you're not going to be near the wolf, backed off, and the trainer let everybody know, once I get to this point, we're done. There's no more. And that thing's like, they're like, okay, everybody, we're done. Let's get the fuck out of here.
All three of these Cosmoses, the original one with Carl Sagan, the one that we're hosting in 2014 and 2019, are co-written by Anne Truman, and she's the widow of Carl Sagan. But she kind of in the shadow back then, but she's hugely creative and highly enlightened. And so most of the sort of the soul energy, if you will, what makes Cosmos distinct from other documentaries where you're sort of sitting there learning, you put your thinking cap on, your learning cap on. In Cosmos, it's your feeling cap. You're not only learning, you're also feeling the science and its relationship to you, to civilization, to the world, to the universe. And her infusion of this, she's a highly scientifically literate writer, producer. And so I just give a shout out to her who's working with you.
Is Cosmos on Apple TV or
So Cosmos
Amazon?
was Cosmos was after it premiered on Fox and then went internationally at Geo. It then went to Netflix. So, but I think this run of Netflix is going to drop until the next one comes in. I think they want to clear the landing zone for the next Cosmos, but it went to Netflix.
But is it available for anyone to get right now?
Oh, right now? It should be. I haven't checked. That's a great question.
I have it all on my DVR. I'm scared to delete it.
Oh,
I only have like 6% left.
That's
Space
what
left.
everyone's DVR looks like.
I got all your Cosmos in there.
Yeah, so thanks for having that.
What's that Morgan Freeman show?
Through the wormhole.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that on there too.
Yeah. Well, see, that's a Joe Rogan thing.
Yeah.
If you didn't have that, I'd be disappointed. I say you're an imposter. You're fake.
It's an opportunity to be entertained and learn, which I think is what everybody misses.
Right.
And I think that's what's missing in most public education. People are bored, and you take these kids with so much energy, and then you make them sit still and watch something that's not even remotely stimulated by a person who doesn't really care to be there.
Right. And they know this. They know this intuitively, if not explicitly.
Yeah.
The enthusiasm is absent.
Yeah, they can feel it. Yeah. It's the worst way to learn. It's the worst way, and it's so hard to escape. Once you get out of that system, it takes forever for a lot of these people to just get their excitement about education back.
You know what I say when I address teachers? We all, and by the way, I'll do this right now. This way, only three of us, but let's take a show of it. Had like a singular influence. Give me a number. It's going to be, I'm betting, it's 5 or fewer. Probably more like 3.
Yeah, for teachers.
What's your number?
Well, the one that I talked about on your show last time I saw you.
Thanks for coming on to start
My
talking.
pleasure. It was a science teacher that I had when I believe I was in 7th grade, who told me that if you really want to hurt your brain, look up and recognize the fact that goes on forever, that this is infinite, and just think about what that means, infinite, that there really is no end to it.
So, but how many teachers such as that were so influential?
That one guy saying that one thing in that one class, he might be the one.
What do you got? 2. For me, it's like 2.5. And I've had scores of teachers.
Yeah.
Okay, 100 teachers at least. So what I tell teachers is, be that teacher to your students. We've all had those teachers. Be that teacher. And in every case, it wasn't because the topic was something you knew in advance you would like. It's because their energy for sharing their passion and love for the subject was palpable.
Yeah.
And it just spilled out of them. And when it coursed through your veins and your arteries, and you walk out of there thinking, wow, that was the most interesting thing I've ever done in my life. You don't even care what you get on the test after that, because you got touched and you became an enlightened participant in that exercise and that exploration.
Yeah, it's just so hard for them to even get kids' attentions, though.
Yeah, our basis, half the energy of the teachers is maintaining work.
I think the success of your book, the success of your show, your podcast, and many of these other really intelligent podcasts are showing that there's an appetite for this stuff out there.
Yeah, and I'm delighted to be a servant of that curiosity. And I brought this just because it's not even out yet. You're hearing like now live. Live. Okay, so this is like a
5-second delay.
to delete all my expletives.
No. What is this accessory to war?
Oh, this is like another book. This is coming out in 3 weeks.
Is this about space war?
Accessory to war, the unspoken alliance between astrophysics and military. Yeah, so this other book was Astrophysics for People in a Hurry. If you're in a hurry, do not buy this book. This is not for people in a hurry. This is not an impulse item at the checkout. This is all about. By the way, we know what role the physicist plays in war. The physicist makes the bomb, invents the bomb. The chemist perfects napalm. The biologist weaponizes anthrax. And the astrophysicist, well, we sit at the end of a telescope and wait for photons to cross the universe and enter our detector, and we go into conferences and argue about them. So there is no obvious connection between what we do and military strength, hegemony, dominance, empire. It's just not obvious. That's why the subtitle, The Unspoken Alliance, it's not a secret. It's not there. It's there, but it's not, nobody's talking about it. Do you realize? I'll just give an example, okay? If you needed more reasons to think that Columbus was a dick, okay, let me add one to it. Okay?
There's a difference between when we were kids and today.
Yeah, I know. But actually, I do have something mildly redeeming to offer about Columbus. You want me to start with that?
How you want to do it?
I'll do the dick part.
It's a dick part.
Okay, so on his third voyage, by the time of his third voyage, he already planted enough Spanish flags, and Spain had already begun to set up governments and infrastructures in these places that he had found, basically conquered. And so in one of the places, it's in the book, I think it's Hispaniola, one of the island today. He has to get back, it's his third voyage, 1503, 1504. He's got to get back to Spain. He doesn't have enough resources, not enough food for his crew. So he asks the natives, would you please give us some of your stock that you have collected from your farming? Now, this particular group of natives only makes exactly the amount of food they need to tie to the next crop. They don't have surplus. So they said, no, we don't have surplus, sorry. Columbus knew that 1 week hence, coincidentally, there was going to be a total lunar eclipse where the moon in its orbit around Earth enters Earth's shadow. The full moon enters Earth's shadow and disappears. And the geometry of that event is just a simple lunar eclipse, but the geometry says that sunlight passes around Earth through Earth's atmosphere and takes on sunset colors that reach into Earth's shadow, giving the moon, if you can see it at all, the deep set. And he knew about this because he read the tables, the eclipse tables, all right? We'd known enough about the solar system at the time we got that, okay? Actually, back then it was just the known world with Earth, no universe. That didn't matter. The rhythms of the universe were known. He says to the natives, if you do not give us food, my God, which is more powerful than your God, will make the moon disappear and will turn black. That will happen in 1 week. You have 1 minute to comply. Some of them were skeptical. What? You can't what? Others said, shit, we gotta do what this guy said. Look at the ships they came in. Their guns, their power, their culture. Look what they've got. Sure enough, right on cue, the moon begins to disappear. According to that is a famous woodcut. You got this? Those viewing the video of this, there's a famous woodcut, and notice the natives bowing to him, and he stands proudly because he knows the science, he knows the astronomy, he knew this, and so he invokes this to dominate people who are not yet scientifically literate. And within seconds, whether the people survive the winter, but he got back to the army. That is one microcosm of ways that the universe has been invoked. I'll give you another example. Los Alamos, one of the national parks. They today, as basically since their inception, are charged with tracking the nuclear arsenal of the United States. Our nuclear power, the nukes that would go into nuclear weapons. They think about this. Do you realize they hire actual physicists? I told you women. Because there's a room. There are 2 rooms. I mean, I'm simplifying this, but basically, there are 2 rooms adjacent to one another and a computer between the 2 of them. The most powerful computers in the world. And there is code running on those computers that calculates the energy yields of hydrogen fusion. That's exactly what a national physicist cares about when stars blow up. Okay? The sun is undergoing nuclear fusion right now, and as they explode in supernova. This is a natural thing going on in the universe. On the other side, it's a classified one. They're calculating yields of hydrogen atoms. And they have lunch together. They compare notes. The government doesn't always have the best people. But if you hire some of the best people to do whatever it is they want, and their calculations happen to relate to a military project, there you have a two-way street in progress. Why do you think the Hubble telescope, the mirror issues notwithstanding, which were ultimately fixed when it was first launched, why was that so successful? There were versions of the Hubble telescope previously launched by the military. Looking down, that the model for that telescope had already been conceived and built and was operating. Then we said, oh, we want it. Okay, but we don't, that's not public that this is going on. We designed, the telescope gets designed, has the benefit of previous versions of it having been used successfully, but looking down and waiting up. This is the perennial two-way street of astronomy in the old days and in modern times astrophysics. And the invention of the telescope. You haven't said anything yet. You're a good listener. Should I just keep talking? Am I preventing you from interrupting?
Don't worry about me.
Okay, fine. Galileo perfects the telescope. He learned that it had just been invented in the Netherlands. The Dutch were opticians, right? So they invented the telescope and the microscope within a couple of years of one another. This transformed science.
When did they invent the eyeglass?
The reading glass earlier than that, but I don't know when. The real advance was putting two lenses in line with one another. Sounds trivial in modern times, but that was a huge leap, conceptual leap in what you would accomplish. And in so doing, depending on how you curve them and how you grind the shape of those lenses, you would get a microscope or a telescope. And we're off to the races. That's basically the birth of modern science as we now think of it and conduct it. Because you say to yourself, my senses, I don't trust them to be the full record of what's going on in front of me. You pull out a microscope. Oh my gosh, Leeuwenhoek. He got the microscope guy. He got a drop of pond water, puts it under his microscope, just to think to do this. It's just water. Why do you think that's something interesting to do? He said, I wonder. He was curious. He puts it under and sees little, what he described as animalcules, happily swimming. Animalcules. It's like the amoebas in Paramecia. And it is. And so he reports on this to the scientific authorities, and they won't believe him. They say, on Leeuwenhoek, we think you might have had too much gin before you wrote this letter. Why would anyone believe this? That there's entire creatures, an entire universe of creatures thriving in a drop of pond water. And so the way science works is one report does not make it true. You need verification. They sent people to the Netherlands to verify his results, and there was the birth of microscopy. And then they looked at everything, the cells, the vocabulary to describe what we're now seeing. Well, that was the journey down small, then the journey went up big. Galileo perfects the telescope. He looks up and says, whoa, I see craters, mountains, valleys on the moon. The sun has spots. Venus goes through phases. This became the corpus of evidence for Earth going around the sun in support of Copernicus' idea that Earth went around the sun. My point is, what was the second thing he did with his telescope? He contacted the Doge of Venice, invited him to the clock tower, and said, look at what this instrument can do for you. As we look out into the lagoon, you can identify a ship's intentions, friend or foe, by its flag 10 times farther away than you can with the unaided eye. Venice bought a boatload of these telescopes in the service of their military defense. And this was a source of money to Galileo. Now he can go back. This has been a two-way street ever since people have looked at it. So this is an accounting event. It goes on and on. The first X-ray machines for airports. You're old enough to remember. Why were they put in? Because of hijackings to Cuba, basically. They were armed hijackings of airplanes, of American carriers to Cuba. And Congress said, we got to do something about that. Oh, by the way, there's a company in Boston called American Science and Engineering that was building an X-ray detector small enough to put on a satellite to observe the universe in X-rays.
And because no one had, we've used this light, but not X-ray, that's a branch of the electromagnetic spectrum. We think if there are black holes out there, the region surrounding them will give us X-rays. It's a new window on
The airport initially came out.
Initially, yes. There was a two-way street. There was, oh my gosh, we need this for security. Oh my God, we were using. Let's apply that technology to these detectors.
Stuff that they devised for use on the space station and many other technologies have trickled their way down to
Well,
the society.
that always happens, and even some simple things. Because people say, why spend money up there? We should be spending it down here. But there's an interesting fact here that is almost never discussed. The people who think about the universe and study the universe are hugely creative. And the creative energies cannot be pre-prescribed. You can't go to a creative, you might, but I don't know that you get their maximum creativity. Say, I need you to invent a cure for cancer right now. Use that brilliance. I'll try, but the greatest discoveries, the greatest cures, the greatest of these comes from a cross-pollination of interest that people have, that where they were engaged because they were interested just for the sake of being interested. So watch what happens. Here's an example. The space shuttle. It's a glider when it lands. Okay, it's got no engines. It's got flaps. There's a little bit of brakes in the tires, but that's about it. When it comes in, okay, how do you make sure the thing stays on track? Because they kept drifting and crosswinds and this sort of thing. And so they said, why don't we groove the rubber? So the rubber on the runway, so the rubber can align with the grooves and stay in a straight line. Because rubber doesn't slide well, it doesn't slide sideways where it needs to be on grooves. When they realized how effective that was, it's now put on off-ramps to freeways. If there's a freeway off-ramp that's a little tight, not quite banked well enough, it's going to be grooved. Check it out. And you can say, well, okay, that's a pretty simple low-tech solution. Why couldn't we just discover that on our own without the $20 billion a year space agency called NASA? But you didn't. You didn't. Power tools, cordless, high-torque power tools, were invented to service satellites in orbit by NASA. Because you can't just plug it into a 120-volt socket when you're floating in space. So the engineers said, how are we going to solve this problem? Let's make a high-torque power tool. So now, NASA invents the high. Now, that is the only way you're buying a power tool today, is the cordless variety. All construction sites. They're not looking for a power outlet for these things. So why did we invent this without the $20 billion space? You didn't. You didn't think about it. You said, oh, I can plug it in. This is great. You're not even thinking what you need. So, yes, there are all of these applications. But I don't think that's a good reason to do it, but I don't think it's the best reason. The best reasons are, my gosh, don't you want to keep treating? Don't you want to keep looking into the future?
That would be ideal, but that's not attractive to people who spend the tax dollars. Because the tax dollars, people get super pragmatic, and they go, why do we need to go to Mars? What we need to do is take care of this, pay for that, the deficit, the budget.
So NASA's budget today is 0.4% of the federal budget. So if you take a dollar,
0.4%.
I will quantify it. Instead, take a dollar bill and imagine that's your tax number, and you can cut it to whatever percent you want. So let's cut 0.4% off of the edge. That doesn't get you into the ink. You're still in the white border around it.
I didn't even notice they put that dollar.
You can trim that off the dollar
and pay for anything.
So my point is, most of the people who say, don't spend it here, spend it there, they think NASA has more budget than it actually does. If you ask them how much, you're going to tell me that if you can take that 0.4% and spend it in these other problems and solve them, I would say, yeah, go right ahead. But is this thinking about a future?
Well, for a guy like you, that's super important. For a guy who's in Cleveland, who doesn't give a shit about science.
Oh, no, excuse me. That's like the person who says, okay, I don't need the space program. Why do I need the space program? I have my cell phone and I have the Weather Channel and I can know anything I need. This is... You're using GPS satellites to understand where you are on this earth, to understand where grandma's house is. So we who created what?
Created spread spectrum care. Like, hey, you're smart too.
Yeah, it would take decades to really realize that. And of course, GPS is launched by the military, and it's now hundreds of billions of dollars worth of the American economy thriving on this space application. But it was a military intent, and it was to navigate the surface of the earth.
Yeah.
To navigate. And the first Gulf War was the first big use of space assets in the conduct of military operations.
I believe even when Hedy Lamarr created it with another scientist, the idea behind it was for encoded transcriptions or encoded information during the war.
Well, so that's a big challenge. How do you encode information? That's, by the way, the future of this might come from. It's still not clear. The jury's still out, and there's sort of opposing views on this. But you've heard about quantum entangled particles,
Yes.
where I can create a piece in time, and if you observe that other particle, it instantly changes the state of the particle back. The other particle is back where I am. And by the way, that they communicate instantaneously, faster than the speed of light.
When you say if you observe, do you mean that if you observe it with
Anything.
but you have to do something?
You have to do it. Yes.
So something has to interact with. It's not woo.
Intermittent.
But
It's so not woo.
But you say that, people go, yeah, I saw that in The Secret.
Yeah, so the problem is the word observe. People think it's a psychological thing, but in physics, it's got nothing. It's a measurement. It's a measurement thing.
Right.
And so if there's an electron sitting in the middle of this table and all the lights are out, I can say, I think there's an electron here. Let me find out. And the moment I turn on, because the measurement requires an interaction with it. And in the quantum scale, interactions change the state of the experiment that you're conducting. We know this, we quantified it, we don't like it, but we deal with it. And in the act of dealing with it, you can exploit that fact for other purposes. We exploit quantum craziness to birth the information technology revolution. There is no creation, storage, or retrieval of information without an exploitation of the quantum. So, and by the way, the quantum was discovered in quantum physics as a branch of physics was discovered in the 1920s. If you were around back then, and your tax buddies who don't like paying taxes, what would you have said? Why are you spending government money on the atom and on molecules, and you can't even see them? What good is it? I'm a woodworker. I just care about my wood atoms. Right here I am. To shove that where your tax dollar is. And so it would look like play in computing, this creation, storage, and retrieval of information. And by some measures, it's a third of the world's GDP is traceable to what quantum physics does for us on a computing scale. So anyone, yes. Well, I mean, there are ways to do it. There's certain industries that would still be there without computing, but they're made more efficient with it. Okay, so UPS tracks all of their trucks with GPS and with a computing device that invokes quantum. UPS predates the use of these tools, but you can look at profits relative to their efficiencies that are enabled by these technologies, as well as entire fields that didn't exist before computing. You add all that up, it's a stunning fact. And so my only point is that if you want today to say, why study this when we have these other problems, all I do is take it back to the cave and say, I'm in the cave. And there's a mountain. I tell the cave, I tell the tribe leaders, I want to explore that mountain and that valley. No, we can't afford to send you out there now. We have to solve the cave problems first before anyone leaves the cave. We laugh at that. That's an absurd claim to make in caveman days. I don't know if anyone did it, but that's a crazy thought. Because there are solutions to your problems that might exist, and time has demonstrated likely exist by leaving the cave that you cannot discover. So for me, exploration is not just space. All the frontiers of the earth. Biology, chemistry, AI. You know those frontiers. And then you can cross-pollinate them and transform civilization. The last example I give, and then I'll shut up because I want to hear you talk too. It's not I want to hear you interact with what I'm telling you. Here's one. You ready? Okay. My physics professor in college studied the universe, loved the universe, studied gas clouds between stars, and studied how would you detect a gas cloud. It was like radiating light. Well, they give off radio waves, right? And he figured out what kind of radio waves they give off and why. And in this, he gained expertise in the nucleus of the atom. And he discovered that the nucleus can resonate. Depending on the mass of the nucleus, which means depending on what atom it is on the periodic table, it will resonate slightly differently when exposed to the same electromagnetic field. He discovered a new phenomenon in physics called nuclear magnetic resonance. It would then take a clever medical technologist to say, wait a minute, if you can distinguish one heavy atom from another, let me make a machine out of that, put your body in it, and I can then distinguish one kind of tissue from another. And thus was born the magnetic resonance imaging, the MRI, arguably the most potent tool in the arsenal of modern medicine, where I can diagnose a condition in your body without cutting you open first. That is based on a principle of physics discovered by a physicist who had no interest in medicine. By the way, the real title should be Nuclear Magnetic Resonance Imaging, but that's the other N word. People don't like that. Yeah, people don't like nuclear. They're less likely to go inside the machine where nuclear goes on. But my point is, that was a cross-pollination of ideas, with clever people on their frontiers looking over the fence at discoveries that are being made. It's how we got the microwave oven. That wasn't invented by a thermodynamicist. Microwaves. This is a World War II attempt to communicate using microwaves. And they found out some guy's chocolate bar melted in the microwave field. They said, what happened there? And they did some more tests. And of course, the water molecule and other molecules common in food respond to microwaves. It vibrates them ferociously. And so you put food in a microwave cavity, the water content of the food vibrates, friction cooks the food. There's still people that today would say, oh, nuke this, because they do so fast, and they're like, oh, you're still saying it's still. Have no fear, it's just friction. Okay, friction.
Yeah, but everybody's scared that it fucks up the food.
Well,
does it?
No, it just heats the water.
Get scared. The rule people do.
Okay, so here's the thing. There's certain foods that don't respond well to the flipping of the water molecule, and one of them is like bread crumbs.
It's hard.
Yeah, it gets chewy and leathery.
Yeah.
And
but only if you like overdo it.
If you overdo it, you gotta do it just right, and you're still good. Overdo it, it can get lead. That's kind of it. I'm trying to think. You wouldn't grill a steak in a microwave. You would heat up the meat uniformly. But it's a mess and it splatters all over. So you pick the foods that are best for that situation. As you would pick the foods best, you wouldn't put toast in an oven at 350 degrees to bread to make toast. We have toasters for that. All right, so different things in your kitchen do things best. You wouldn't make ice cream in your toaster oven.
But people are afraid of microwaves. The one thing they're afraid of.
It's not that they're afraid of microwaves. That they're afraid of things they don't understand.
Yes. They're afraid that something's going to happen to their food that makes it less good.
Correct. And it's the not knowing that you fear.
My wife's friend's mom will not eat something that comes out of the microwave.
Really?
She quotes that as part of what makes her healthy. She drinks a lot of water. She refuses to eat microwave food.
The whole life is around not using microwaves.
She won't eat anything that comes out of the microwave.
Okay, I'm glad that she doesn't, she can live a long, happy life. It's like a pasta.
She's going to cook it again.
You're going to cook it again.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So I think microwave ovens were invented for leftovers. So.
Yeah, just eat a bowl of pasta, just in general.
Yeah.
Soup.
Yeah, soup is good.
Yeah. So you don't have to worry about it. It's not doing anything to it. It's not sucking any nutrients out or adding any nuclear radiation.
Correct. Magnetic radiation. It's all light. Bulb. We tend to use radiation in the context of stuff that would hurt you. So that would be radiation of high enough energy to hurt you. And microwaves are not in that category.
I never even thought about what microwaves do to this conversation.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a certain frequency of microwaves that beautifully pairs with the water molecule, and it vibrates it brilliantly.
So it doesn't work for the dried things?
Yeah, that's why if you put something that has no water in it, it's not really very useful. It's white, you jerk. There's still some moisture in it, correct. It's why it heats the food and not the plate. If the plate gets hot, it's not because the microwave oven heated the plate. It's because the microwave's hot. The food. That's why you can usually pick it up with the handles. You can cook food on a paper plate.
That's right. It doesn't burst the flames. This is crazy.
What? You didn't, Joe?
What is the difference between MRI and fMRI?
Oh, so in fMRI, I don't claim total expertise here, but I'll tell you the little I know. In MRI, they put you in there and you're stationary, and then they make this map of whatever part of the body they're studying is typically your neck, right? But you can do it for your joints and other parts of your body that might require this level of three-dimensional analysis. And it's a 3D map of what's going on in the part that they surveyed. And so you look at it from slices through that section. So you might see in MRIs of your brain, of your skull, and they take slices. As the slices go through, you see like the eye socket come in, or the nose cavity. And you can look at it in all three dimensions, front to back, side to side, up to down. So time is now an active coordinate of what's going on.
And they're measuring it as they're talking to you.
Correct. So they say, oh, think of ice cream sundae with a cherry on top. But think of a naked person who you'd want to have sex with.
And F stands for
functional. Right. And so it's basically a real-time observation of what's going on.
It's a convicted person. There's a woman in India. It's a really highly criticized case, but she was convicted of a crime. I believe it was murder, because she had functional knowledge of the crime scene. And the arguments against it were, like, if you're going to be accused of a crime, clearly you're going to study the evidence. You're going to talk to a lawyer, you're going to go over some things.
I don't know if fMRI is that precise.
Yeah, they don't think it is. That's why it's very disturbing that this was used in court. It's like, do you remember when these Italian geologists were, I think they were tried because they should have known about it. Hey guys, this is not how it works. Like, this shit can just happen.
Yeah, that's so. No, I don't. But that's what I do know. There are three kinds of truths. Okay, because we're like a tree. I'll give you three. Okay.
Rudy Giuliani kind?
Okay, so you ready?
True isn't always true.
I know. So let me try to unpack that.
Okay.
You ready? Okay.
Alternative facts.
There's something called an objective truth. An objective truth is something that is true, whether or not you believe it. And the methods and tools of science are uniquely conceived to seek out and establish objective truths. And this, I'm referring to the invocation of the scientific method. No one scientific research result is true until it is verified by other people's research results using a different experimental method with different wall current from another country. When your competitor says, I think you're wrong, let me show how you're wrong, and they reproduce your experiment and get the same result. When you have generally the same results emerging, that is a newly discovered objective truth about the natural world. And when you have objective truths that are later shown to be false, that's an objective truth. Then you have personal truths. These are truths that you hold dearly. Jesus is your savior. Muhammad is the final prophet on earth. Abraham is these are your personal truths. There's a heaven you're going to. No one is going to take that from you. Not in a free country where freedom of expression and speech and religion is protected. It's a personal truth. The problem here is you can't convince someone else of your personal truth without some act of persuasion, and in the limit, an act of violence will tell you that it's a truth. So I don't want to take that usage of the word away from them.
Okay, so you're giving them a definition.
I'm giving them the word truth, but modifying it to say personal truth. That's where I'm not. They've used it that way for millennia. I'm not gonna. Okay, they feel that it is true, and it's true in their bones. I'm simply saying that because it's your personal truth, you cannot require that because the United States, because God is not mentioned in the Constitution, itself a controversial thing in its day. Actually, God is mentioned, but in a very insignificant way. That the Constitution is a God-free document. And because it's a God-free document, it protects your expression of religious faith. Because it means the government has no say in who and what you believe or why. If the Constitution said, mention God and Jesus, well, there it is. There's Christianity built into the fabric of the country. And if you want to be some other religion, you're going to have a hard time because we can set laws against it. This is why so many religiously persecuted people came to the United States, to escape their country where they could not practice their religion a little differently or a lot differently from what was going on in their homeland.
So is it a problem though to call it truth?
I would rather not call it truth, but I'm a big word guy, and I respect what happens to words. I don't always like it, but I respect it. And so I'm going to say there's an objective truth, which is true whether or not you. There's your personal truth, which is true to you. Third truth is a political truth. Political truth is something that is true because it has been incessantly repeated. And then you just believe it at that point. Okay, what's Hillary Clinton's first name? It's Crooked. Oh, her first name is actually Hillary? Okay. I thought it was Crooked Hillary. This was incessantly repeated in the Trump campaign. And that's an absurd example of it. But the point is, if you keep saying that the New York Times is fake news, you just keep saying that, eventually people believe it. And it becomes a political truth. Because the politicians repeat it.
So it's a political truth that people believe in, or it's a political truth because people believe it? Which one is it?
So again, you're trying to preserve the true fundamental meaning of the word truth.
Yeah.
And I just given up on it.
Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris have an infuriating, frustrating podcast where they went over the meaning of the word truth for more than an hour.
And like I said, you can do that, and philosophers like arguing, debating the meaning of things. For me, it's however people are using the word, that's the meaning. I concede that.
Well, we concede.
By the way,
those
it's
things.
why I don't call myself an atheist. It's why. You can look up the dictionary definition of atheist, and it kind of applies to me, but what is the definition of atheist in practice? It is what leading atheists do. And it's their conduct, it's their behavior, it's what they say, and it's their attitude. That is what an atheist is today, because they're the most visible exemplars of that word. And most of their conduct, I either don't agree with or simply don't engage in.
What don't you agree with?
I don't debate religious people and tell them they're idiots. I don't.
It doesn't work.
It's whether or not it works, it's not in me to do that. I don't purge myself of words that have religious foundations in them. I once in my Facebook, I had a friend going up in orbit to repair the Hubble telescope, one of the astronauts, and I said, Godspeed. And then I gave the astronaut's name. People wrote in the thread, said, I thought you were an atheist. How can you say Godspeed? An atheist got angry with me? And I said, okay, first of all, this phrase is deeply historical in the space program. When John Glenn was launched, the headline was Godspeed, John. And every mission where we send human beings into space, somewhere there's that reference in the NASA thing.
What's that word mean?
I'll tell you what it means. Okay? So, by the way, I'll get to that in just 1 minute. The atheists who are arguing that I was using Godspeed as a phrase, they all have used the phrase goodbye, haven't they? See you later, goodbye. Where does that word come from? It's from God be with you. It's a contraction of those three words. And why would you say this? You would say this to someone leaving the city wall, where it's dangerous. Okay? Back when you had city-states, you're going to your God be with you to bring protection for you between one city wall and another. Correct. So now, what is the source of danger if you're going to space? It's not alien space buggers. It is the fact that you have space marauders. It's the fact that you have high speed, and high speed is the source of essentially any death of anything that's in motion. If you were part of that disaster, so Godspeed is like a space equivalent to God be with you.
Is that really the
I'm
origin?
just saying,
Did they say that before there was space travel? Did they say Godspeed?
I don't know the actual origin of space travel, of the term. I don't know how far back it goes, but I do know it became common after John Glenn, because they're not going to say it to Yuri Gagarin because they're all atheists in the Soviet Union.
Right.
And so I said that, and then they jumped. So if atheists are jumping on me for having said that, clearly I'm not an atheist. And ask me my favorite Broadway musical of all time. What's your favorite? Jesus Christ Superstar. Right? So, and I still use BC and AD in my writings. Okay? I still do.
You don't use BCE.
I don't use BCE. All right. Well, see, even you cop it too, right there, right? I saw your face. You got the camera. Do you see it?
Interesting. It's interesting.
No, I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Okay. First of all,
Doesn't make any sense.
BCE.
It's not current era, 2,000 years ago.
I'm going to tell you. So BCE, as you know, stands for before Common Era,
Right.
and CE stands for Common Era. So this is de-religiousifying AD and BC.
Right.
Okay. Yet, of course, they reference the same calendar.
Right.
Okay. Well, who invented the calendar we all currently use in modern society? It's called the Gregorian calendar. It was invented by the Catholic Church, by Jesuit priests in the 1580s, assigned by Pope Gregory to fix the problems in the calendar because screen.
Screen? You're crazy.
I got a comment.
I'll bring you coffee.
The Julian calendar, put forth in ancient Rome, had one modification to previous calendar. It had a leap day. Okay? It had a leap day. And, okay, leap days, how often? Every 4 years. This was good. Because what are we trying to track? We're trying to, because the Earth goes around the sun. And so we say, all right, how long does that take? Well, it takes a year. But it turns out we're not actually tracking how long it takes Earth to go around the sun. We're tracking how long it takes Earth to repeat its seasons. And the year that corresponds to our seasons is slightly different from the year that corresponds to how long it takes to go not recognized in the early calendars. And that difference accumulated so that by the year 1584, the vernal equinox, the first day of spring, did not occur from the calendar date. That's what's over. And we're trying to distinguish ourselves mightily from the Jews. So let's fix this. The Jesuit priests got to study this. They looked at the cycles of the heavens, the sun, the moon, the stars, and they came up with a new calendar, the Gregorian calendar, a modification to the Julian calendar. You know what they had to do? To invoke it, they had to take 10 days out of the calendar. To jumpstart, to put the first day of spring back on March 21st. And this happened in October 1584.
Why is there...
It took 10 days out of the calendar. So now how much rent do you pay? They have to invent amortized rent. Yeah, because you're going to pay for 3 weeks instead of 20 days instead of 30. They had to figure that out. Okay? Point is, this was harder, and the whole world uses this calendar. It is the most accurate calendar ever devised. Okay? Yes, I'll tell you what. Okay, you asked. So watch what happened. The leap day overcorrected the calendar. It overcorrected. Oh, yes. So the leap day is every 4 years. That one day every 4 years was slowly putting too many days moments into the year. Okay? The Gregorian calendar figured this out, and it had put 10 extra days since the Julian calendar to the Gregorian calendar. 10 extra days. First, jumpstart, get rid of the 10 days. Now everything's lined up again. Okay, now, how do you prevent this from happening again? Because it overcorrects, how long do you have to wait to remove a leap day that you would otherwise put in? Okay, that's every 100 years. So every 100 years, that would be a leap day, you remove it. Now, it turns out that undercorrects it by an even smaller amount. Okay? So, how long do you have to wait before you have to put a leap day back in? every 400 years. So, the year 2000 was a century which normally would not have a leap day, except it's a century year evenly divisible by 400. So they put the leap day back in. And everybody on February, almost everybody except the astronomers, on February 29th in the year 2000 said it's just a leap year because it's divisible by 4. No, it is a rare leap year. It is a century year divisible by 400. That corrects it back, and so now you have a stable calendar for tens of thousands of years. I got to give props to the Jesuit priests. I'm not going to say, no, I'm taking the Christianity out of this reference, because they figured out the calendar that we all use, and it's a fucking awesome calendar. Sorry to drop an F-bomb. So I'm not, just because some atheists are telling me to rip God out of everything in the universe. I'm not doing that. I'm going to say they came up with this calendar. The reasons were because they didn't want to confuse it with Passover. The motivation is whatever it is, but the science is good. And so there it is. So in Accessory to War, where we go back many centuries, the editor said, well, we should use BCE because it's a liberal forward thing. I said, I am not using BCE and CE. And by the way, there was no year zero. You know why there's no year zero? Because the Romans came up with the calendar and they counted using Roman numerals. And Roman numerals don't have a zero. It was not yet invented. No! So it went from 1 BC to AD 1. BC is before Christ, AD is Anno Domini in Latin, the year of our Lord. Yeah. Now, of course, in Islam and in China and in Hebrew cultures, Israel in particular, they have access to the Chinese calendar and the Muslim calendar. Muslim, of course, dates to Muhammad. Chinese calendar dates to actually a planetary alignment, 4,700 BC.
They use a different system.
Well, they use a different system, that's fine. And the Hebrew calendar dates to like the beginning of the universe as interpreted in the Torah. So they have access to those. But when they conduct the international business, we just simply use the Gregorian calendar. Just get over it.
But do they use it in China? Do they use it constantly and consistently? Or do they alternate between the Gregorian calendar and something else?
I'm not a Chinese expert, but from what I know of China and my friends and colleagues, for conducting business, the world's business is conducted on the Gregorian calendar, the 12-month calendar, with the year as referenced by everybody else.
Does it have to be done that way in terms of like, has anyone ever done a study on possibly creating a more effective, more accurate calendar that doesn't involve leap years?
The problem is the length of the day does not cut evenly to the time it takes Earth to go around the sun. So there'll always be fractions of days that we're accumulating.
Right.
And then what do you do with them? You wait till you accumulate a day, put it in, or take it out.
What did the Mayans do?
They
They had a lunar cycle calendar.
They had a calendar based on Venus, and so yeah, they had a really good calendar.
Yeah, so
It was overstated that it was like really accurate calendar. Overstated. It was overstated. It was good, better than anything that came before it.
not as good.
No. Gregorian calendar.
Love the bullshit.
They do, and they want to believe that people who, want to believe that people 5,000 years ago somehow knew more about the universe than we do.
Yeah.
Just no.
Why is that? Why do they want to believe that?
I think, I don't know. For me, that's one of the great puzzles of life. Why do people want to believe that the Egyptians had some access to
They knew something.
Of course!
They definitely knew how to build some incredible shit.
Of course!
Right? That
Oh, of course. I want to take that away from them.
doesn't the physical, just the presence of these incredible buildings, leave the possibility that maybe they had some knowledge we lost?
Lost knowledge is a real thing.
Yeah.
I don't want to belittle or diminish the significance of real knowledge. We forgot how to draw in perspective from ancient times. Had to be rediscovered, as I understand from the artists, had to be rediscovered in the Renaissance. The archway, the Roman arch, had to sort of be rediscovered. Okay, so yes, you can lose knowledge, but if you look at the knowledge we have gleaned using the methods, modern methods and tools of science that go far beyond our five senses and our access to the world, to say that somehow they knew something that we don't using our tools, that's just false. Sorry, it's not possible.
But
We know the physiological limits of your ability to know what's going on around you. And then people say, I have a sixth sense. Fine. But as a scientist, I have dozens of senses. Okay, I can measure things that your five senses can't. I can measure the magnetic field around you, the electromagnetic field, how much microwaves are coursing through your body now. We have no sensors for this.
I can see auras.
Fine, I can see other things that are affecting your body now. I can tell you if ionizing radiation is passing through you. I have Geiger counters that can do that. You can't. Oh, you'll eventually learn whether you're exposed to ionizing radiation because you'll get cancer of your organs and your limbs fall off.
All right, I can see that we know far more today,
Yes.
perhaps, no, not even perhaps, than at any other time in conceivable history.
Yes.
But it is possible that they knew some things, like how to build a pyramid,
Yes.
that we really just don't understand.
I don't know what it means to not understand how to build a pyramid today. We
Well,
have 150-story buildings, so we're not thinking about
different
pyramids.
stuff.
I can tell you this. Do you know what the first thing that was built by humans ever? No. That's only part of the sentence. Sorry. I love your enthusiasm. My sentence only barely came out of my mouth. The tallest thing humans built after the pyramids.
I think it's a building in Dubai.
So in other words, what's the next tallest thing after the pyramids?
Oh, right after.
Yeah. What was the next tallest thing we built? Stable structure after the pyramid.
What?
Yes. 89, late 1800s. In Paris, the Eiffel Tower. That was the first stable structure we built as a civilization that was taller than the pyramid. So the Egyptians knew they knew architecture. They knew. No one's taken that away from them. But to claim they have some secret knowledge of the functionings of the universe, no.
Well,
Yeah, that makes for a great TV.
but the fact that they didn't have steel, and the fact that you're dealing with the very, very most recent 2,500 BC built.
You just have to be more ingenious.
Yes.
Otherwise, we have to be. Yeah. How do you move the blocks? How do you make Stonehenge? Those rocks are nowhere in the region. They were carted from some. They found a place where those rocks were have been mined, moved, and yeah, those are big ass rocks.
Yeah. As are the one thing. That's impressive. It's just big. Like what the thing about the pyramids that's so impressive is the precision and the sheer numbers. 2,600,000 stones.
Our best understanding of Stonehenge is that it's a functioning observatory that measures the distance. So, there you go. I just got it's not Stonehenge not impressive. It just makes sense. They're lined with the summer solstice.
Right.
There are holes that are not stones, but they're 56 holes, which is 3 times the Saros, which is the cycle of eclipses, of the matching of the orbits of the sun and the moon in the sky, the paths of the sun and the moon in the sky. And when they match up, you get an eclipse.
Is
It's an eclipse observatory. A guy named
That's absolutely what it is.
There's a book published in the 1970s by a guy named Dawkins. It's not Richard Dawkins, but it's another one. It's Hawkins. Richard Hawkins. Hawkins. Damn. Well, we got our top crack researchers here. Just look up the title of this book was Stonehenge Decoded. Just look up the title. Anyhow, it's highly convincing, and we're all there.
So it's essentially just a study of the position of the stones in relationship to where the
Gerald Hawkins, thank you. Yeah, Stonehenge Decoded. I visited Stonehenge as a kid at age 15 on an expedition, and he was the expedition.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so
How lucky for you.
yeah, it was good, and it stuck with me, which is why I named this phenomenon in Manhattan, where the sun sets along the street.
I saw that. I saw that on your Instagram.
Yeah. So I named that Manhattan Henge, sort of harkening back to my early days, thinking about the alignment of the sun, the structures that we might. So twice a year, for those viewers or listeners who don't know, twice a year the Manhattan Street which is not perfectly aligned north-south. The Manhattan street grid the sun will set exactly on the grid. And what's up there now, that image, what's not obvious is that picture is taken along a street that is itself 3 miles long, and then you're crossing the Hudson River, and then there's New Jersey on the other side. So people try to zoom in on it, but what you really should do is zoom out from it, and then you get the vanishing point on it. So all those are zoomed in. Let's go to that one looks more like my float. Do we go back to that other one? Yeah. See, so there's a 34th Street, the one you see now, and then you get this sparkling effect. That happens twice a year.
That sort of crazy wildlife effect.
Yes.
Photoshop.
Yeah.
There's an image on his Instagram that is linked on my Instagram. Most recent photo.
Oh, okay.
There it is. Oh, there's you with the selfie.
That's the selfie. Okay, so come on down. Oh yeah, that's
strong.
That was my first selfie. I was 14. It was probably 1974.
Wow.
So I would have been 15, 14 or 15.
So your path of curiosity was set.
Oh, that goes back.
There.
Right. But that's not what we're looking for here. Let's go. That one. Thank you. So there's another one. But go back to all of these things. Wow. Zoom back out until you see all the pictures there. Go to the bottom left. There you go. Okay. That might be the first ever Manhattan Hedge photo.
What year is that from?
I took that in
2001.
Right, and it got published in 2002.
This is before September 11th. This is July.
I took it before September 11th. Right. And then I had a means to publish it, and right then, notice that it's a green light and traffic is ready to knock me over. So no one is in the streets doing this, but now there are tens of thousands of people that pour into the streets in those days. We post what day to get the Hedge from the American Museum of Natural History day job, and then that goes out, the press gets it, and tens of thousands of people spill at the street, blocking traffic. And you can think of all the ways traffic gets blocked in your day. Yeah. Like,
it's too many of them. That's by yourself. It's interesting.
That's great. Yeah, so that's what it has become.
Holding up phones.
And it's all because I went to Stonehenge. Yeah. So it's also an observatory.
Is it you that named this?
Yeah. Coin. I didn't say coin. Yeah. Because the buildings are like henges. The hinge is a stone. It's a vertical stone. It's a vertical structure. If you made a stone, it's a stone hinge.
Why isn't it possible to construct a calendar that doesn't have leap years?
What you would have to do, you could do it. But what would happen is, it means you care more about the year than you do about the day. So what would happen is, you would celebrate the new year at like 3 in the afternoon. Right? And then the next year you celebrate it at like 12 minutes after 3 in the afternoon. And then 20 minutes. It would sort of move through your calendar. And then that means you cared more about the year. Sorry, you care more about did I say that right? We always want to celebrate New Year's on midnight. And by the way, New Year's is celebrated in 24 time zones, not all at the same time.
Right.
So it's interesting. Everyone thinks of that as a moment. Yeah, it's really a calendar event. Sorry, it's a clock event. It's celebrated over 24 hours.
Yeah, if you're in Thailand, it's 14 hours different.
So therefore, if you were to do it astrophysically, you would know the exact moment where we return in our orbit, and everybody would celebrate that instant. And that would be, so that the whole world would celebrate the New Year at the same time. It means you value it differently. It's not a midnight celebration. You could do that.
Celestial.
It's celestial, yeah.
Huh. So that would be the only way?
Yeah, that's the only way, because a day doesn't cut evenly into the year. Those two have nothing to do with one another. There's no reason why that would happen. So so in other words, let me say it another way, just because you're looking like you're living off in space here. So there's New Year's. Okay, let's count 365 days. When we do that, we are not at the same place we were when we last celebrated New Year's Day. Okay?
We're not at the same place.
In our orbit, our revolution.
around the
Okay,
sun.
you rotate on an axis, you revolve around something else. There's those two words. I use those two words. So we're not in the same place, but we celebrate New Year's Eve. Well, when will we be in the same place? A quarter of a day later. 6 hours. So we would celebrate the next New Year at 6 a.m. And the next New Year at noon. Then the next New Year at 6 p.m. And then the next New Year kind of aligns back again. That's the leap day. That's the 4th year we have put in a leap day.
Oh,
See?
so it's our love of the day
Yes.
that keeps us
Yeah.
fucked up with the world when it comes to the year.
Yeah.
Wow.
You pick one, and then that's how you do it.
And what the Mayans based it on the moon, right?
I didn't study their calendar as deeply as I should have and wanted to, especially back in 2012. And said, "Oh, the Mayan calendar runs out, so therefore it's the end of the world."
I was thinking it was the end of the world
Because the Mayans said so. The Mayans said so.
Felt like that was back when, before that had happened, George Bush was president in like 2007, and everybody was thinking, Jesus, this is going to be the end.
So every decade there's somebody predicting it. Sure, and I'm actually quite entertained by this exercise.
Remember when they had billboards all around
Yes.
LA just a few years
No,
ago?
that's a different. That's a guy with a radio podcast church. And then the other world didn't come, and so he pushed it forward. So it's an entertainment. We live in a free country. It's evidence that we live in a free country where freedom of speech is protected and you can practice any religion. And they didn't learn much science in school. That's part of the fact that you have this in the world. I don't mind it, actually. I find it entertaining. But it becomes an issue if people such as that gain power over legislation, over the rest of us. Because this would count this as a personal belief. It's your personal belief the world is going to end on October 19th. That's your personal. You're fine.
Right.
But if you now create laws that require I go with that, you just impose your personal belief on me. And your personal belief is not true for everyone. It's only true for everyone.
Yeah, that's a
And an objective truth is true for everyone. So if you're gonna have governance, you're gonna want to base governance on what is objectively true. Because it would apply to everyone, independent of belief system.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And by the way, there are things that we're not sure are true yet that we're still researching. That's not what I'm talking about as an objective truth. Objective truth have been verified by multiple scientific studies, not just one study. This was the problem with the cholesterol study. There's a cholesterol study that set everybody on the course to drop their cholesterol levels. Okay, saying it would be good for your heart and all the rest of this. Because a series of countries were studied where they had longevity and low heart disease and low cholesterol. That study happened to leave out France. That happened, it just wasn't in the study. And a couple of other places that have high cholesterol intake but don't have higher heart disease. So that study was flawed. But it was hard to replicate it because it went over many years and it was thousands of people, and so everyone just jumped on it. You don't have a scientific truth. And this is a general problem with medical results because the press is waiting at the journal editor's office. Here's a new study that shows that this gives you cancer. Oh, that must be true, and out comes the headline because you want to be the first to report it. And then that gets emblazoned in people's heads, and not everyone reads the follow-up. No one could duplicate that study. No one. So there's a flaw. We don't even know what the flaw is. We know that no one else could get those results. So it goes in the dustbin of scientific research. Most research in any journal of the moment will ultimately show to be wrong. That's the bleeding edge of science. It's a great place to be because you're in the trenches and you don't know what is true. You can't look up in the back of the book what the answer is to double check. You don't even know what the question is to ask half the time.
That's very frustrating for people that don't get it. And
Correct, but it's exciting. It's exciting for the scientists.
It's exciting for knowledge. Period. It's constantly expanding. It's very frustrating for people that really don't have the time and maybe did get some outdated nutrition knowledge.
Or they need an answer
20
right
years
now.
ago.
They need an answer right
Yeah.
now, and religion in many ways gives you answers right now without the need to research it on the frontier.
The lack of education and the lack of curiosity about it is one of the scariest things about new generations of kids, right? Like when new generations are coming up, they know less than the generation before. That's when we really start to freak out.
That would be a problem. Although I have good confidence in the 30 and under.
And that is that millennial.
I think millennials have only ever known the internet and devices. So what would that be?
Recent.
But my son is a millennial, and he's like, my kids are millennials, so they're 20-ish. So 30 is a little old. So 25 and under, I think, are the millennials.
Yeah, but 30, they were 10.
I know, but they need a different marketing term, so you can market to them differently. So to me, I would put them in the same bench just as you were thinking there. But they have a different relationship to science and technology. Of course, they don't fear the science or the technology. They embrace it because it has shaped the civilization that has enabled their social life.
It has, but through this, like one of the things that I tweeted, I think it was from Scientific American yesterday, that it's a little bit misleading, but one of the things they said is only 64% of millennials have a strong belief in these things. The coasters are terrible. They look great, and things stick to the bottom.
How was it made of?
Metal.
A metal coaster?
Yeah. See,
What the hell is
it
it?
sticks. Yeah, that's the issue. It sticks when it gets moisture.
You know about this? We flip this over.
It stays there. Oh, it's the pressure.
Yeah, the air pressure.
I don't trust your science.
Okay.
Subjective truth.
64% of what?
Of millennials are not, or only 64% are convinced that the world is a ball. The world is a circle. The world is a spheroid. Is what it's called? Oblique.
I mean, I'd like to see how that question is asked, because if they know that we are oblate, and if the thing is asking, is Earth a ball, they'll say, no, we're an oblate ball. We're slightly wider below the equator than at the equator, so we're a pear-shaped oblate sphere.
But it's not a pear that you would find normally. If you found that pear, you'd be like, this fucking pear that's shaped like a ball.
So these differences in measurements are so small that if you found it on the ground, you would say this is a perfect sphere.
Right.
Let me tell you how good a sphere it is.
Right.
All right, you ever see the schoolroom globes, the geographic globes, and you rub your finger over the palm and you get the layers. Yeah, you get the Rockies. That is a gross exaggeration of reality.
Yes.
Do you realize if you took Earth with all of its mountains, valleys, and hills, and shrunk it down to the size of a cue ball, it would be smoother than any cue ball ever machined? Yes. Yes. Think about it. Think about this. Joe, really? Joe, chill. Listen to me. Right. Okay. Do you know the deepest part of Earth's crust? The Marianas Trench, off the coast of the Philippines, in the Pacific Ocean.
That's the deepest part.
Deepest part goes 6 miles down. Okay.
Oh, okay. So, okay.
Without digging.
Thinking of the depth of the crust
Exactly.
itself.
No, just access to the deepest part of Earth's crust, the lowest point on Earth's surface, Marianas Trench, right off the coast of the Philippines. The highest point on Earth's surface, K1.
Japan?
I think it's K1. So, why would you name the tallest peak K2? I'm not a mountain climber, but I'm just thinking.
Where's K1?
K1, it's the Himalayan Mountains
Okay.
in Nepal. Okay? Isn't it in Nepal? I think it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's say, how high up is that? It was 28,000 feet. So it's like 5 miles up. Okay? The distance between the lowest point on Earth's surface and the highest point on Earth's surface is 11 miles.
That's here in the Congress.
That is less than the length of Manhattan. Yet we are 8,000 miles in diameter. And those 2 points are very far separated from one another. If you were a cosmic giant and you came up to Earth and you rubbed your finger over Earth's surface, it would feel as smooth as a cucumber to you. In fact, in this book, I have a whole chapter called "On Being Round," which is all about this. It's all about our perception of what is round and what is not.
I had asked you to debate one of the flat Earth guys.
No, I don't. I know.
I know. We talked about it. We're gonna have him on Skype.
No, what we do is, and I think this is a diabolical plot, so that the next time we can ship people en masse into orbit, they all want to be the first in line because they know we're going to send them. So if they can see them, they're going to be the first ones in space. Just so they can stop annoying the rest of us.
I don't think you're correct.
I
don't think you're correct, but
I think it's a diabolical plot.
I do have people that I've met that don't believe, because the problem with YouTube videos is, it's a problem with a lot of things, but one of the things about being unchecked while you're discussing things is you can say things, you can use big words, you can sound articulate and smooth, and you can do it in a very professional looking manner.
Or do it passionately.
Yes, passionately, convincingly, charismatically, and you're unchecked. That if you did that in front of an expert and you showed them that, along the way they go, stop, that's not true. Stop, that's not how it works. Let me show you why this is incorrect. Let me show you how you can prove that this is incorrect.
Show you objective truths.
But this is not happening.
Then render your argument invalid.
Right. So people who don't have any education, and then they watch one of these YouTube clips, they start actually believing this stuff makes sense because it's unchecked.
And I would say it's not about whether they've had education. It's about whether the education they had teaches them skepticism of information. It teaches them how to acquire. You realize it's just as intellectually lazy to believe everything you see as it is to deny everything you see.
Yes.
Why should someone know automatically that Earth isn't flat, yet I tell them in the next breath that the entire universe was once as small as a marble? Right? Both of those sound equally preposterous, except one has evidence to back it and the other does not. A very strong scientific, theoretical, and experimental underpinnings. So when you are trained to inquire, you don't either believe everything outright or reject everything outright. You're trained to ask questions. You're trained to probe deeper than the layer of information that comes to you. That's what should be taught in school. And it's not. If they give you a book and say, learn this, and you'll get testimony. And then when you're done, learn this.
Well, isn't also this problem with being inexorably connected to your first belief? When you have an idea and it's in your head, it's very difficult for you to shake that idea and you start arguing that idea becomes a part of their identity.
And they dig their heels in deeper as an opposing view is presented.
Because they connect themselves to these ideas.
Right.
It is who they are.
Right. And so I try not to base my character profile on something that is not yet verified as objective truth.
That's a pretty good thing to do.
It's one of the reasons why I don't have tattoos on my body. Oh, it's stretching my face. Go on. One of the reasons is there's nothing I am so sure that I want to put it indelibly on my skin. No, listen, let me say differently. There's nothing I value in my mind, body, and soul so much at this moment that I want to indelibly etch it on my skin. Because I want to leave room for me to have a possibly more enlightening thought later that would override whatever was my decision at that moment. And since I count myself among the lifelong learners, I'm learning stuff all the time. I say, that's great. That's even better.
What's something you learned recently? Say it in one.
Okay, something I learned recently. I think I knew this when I was a kid, but if you're playing basketball, you're shooting, okay? And you say, oh, that didn't go in. Oh my gosh, well, the rim, they should maybe make the rim a little bigger. I can score more often. Do you realize 2 basketballs can fit exactly side by side through the opening of the basketball? Yes. 2 basketballs.
Tough squeeze.
Now, it's not a cosmically mind-blowing moment, but that gives you perspective next time you watch a basketball game. It's how these guys can fly from the foul line in an airborne slam dunk and not miss because the area is 4 times as large as the ball itself. So there are multiple positions and they can still do it. So it's not that that's easy to accomplish, but knowing this, you realize how much easier it is to score than you might have otherwise thought.
I wonder if basketball.
So that was a recent revelation.
That's a good revelation. I wonder if basketball players occasionally practice with a smaller hole.
I think about this all the time. I said, if I was a basketball player, you don't want to practice with a heavier ball
Yes.
because then that would throw you off. You can practice with a less
bigger ball. Use a bigger ball. Yeah, use a ball sometimes that's almost as big as. But wait a minute, is it heavier? No.
You don't want to use a big ball.
It's a thing they did a long time.
I bet they still don't. They no longer do it because then your grip is different. The grip matters.
Right.
Where your 2 hands go and what that feels.
Yeah.
So you want to do, you use a smaller rim. And in baseball, you can throw a faster pitch to give you less reaction time.
That pool table.
See, it's a skinnier bat.
That pool table is a very small pocket opening.
That's
a 4-inch pocket opening as opposed to a 5.5-inch. It's quite a bit different.
You're doing it. And so I would also, growing up, I played stickball on the street in New York. And so you're using basically a broom handle. And so when the first time you play baseball officially, it's like, whoa, I got this huge bat. And so stickball players tend to transfer very well to baseball when you're a kid.
Yeah.
Because your instrument is bigger.
Did you ever read the talent code?
No.
Daniel Boyle? And he attributes to a different game that they play with a heavier ball that they do indoors. It's a small, heavy ball, and because they do it in tight quarters, it involves incredibly fast footwork and movement. And then these guys take that footwork and movement, and it translates amazingly well to an open soccer field.
I wonder if they calculated that, because what you would do is, let's say the ball weighs twice as much, then it would only go half as far when you kicked it. So then you make a field half as large.
I don't think they did that.
Then you can reproduce almost all of the dynamics of the soccer game.
I think it was based on just trying to play a game.
Like how far you can throw it in. If the ball's twice as heavy, you throw it half as far, the field is half the size.
Right.
Then you have a mini game, basically.
Right. That makes sense.
But there's a whole fun exercise you can do playing sports on other planets. It's funny, occasionally I'll tweet something and people say dork, and I say, yeah, thanks for the compliment.
Nerd is okay. Nerd is accepted.
I'm
Nerd
taking
used
dork.
to be a bad thing.
It used to be.
Dork as well.
You give wedgies to the nerds.
Yeah. Well, the nerds would also be, but now a nerd is like you can be a science nerd and people like it. It's like, oh yeah, I'm an old movie nerd. You can say that.
Yeah, or movie geek.
Yeah.
So I'm taking dork.
Okay.
I'm taking
Geek and dork and nerd. Yeah.
I tell you, I must have told you this last time I was on the show. When I was a kid, I was bigger than other kids. I was always one of the tallest 2 kids in the class out of 30. So I was bigger than others in the day. And I was also physically fit and physically active, athletic. But I was squarely in the geeky camp. Okay, I had my slide rule back in the day, walking down the corridor.
You were also wrestling.
I was captain of my high school's wrestling team, so I was a geek person who could actually kick your ass. Okay, and I saw how my fellow geeks, because that's the community that I associated with card carrying, were treated by the football quarterback and the popular kids and the kids who are all beautiful and the ones who. And I imagined my future as a superhero, defender of the geeks. So then you put up a little, bat signal or a geek signal, put a few digits of pi, and I come flying in, and there's a wedgie in progress, right? I would just land, and I grab the bully and rip them off the counter, and I'm just saying, this is my superhero.
It's always the football players, right?
Not always. So, because I think they're rewarded for
Violence.
For violence.
They also have brain damage.
as we come to
Yeah.
snow.
How fucked up is that? You find out with high school kids
Right.
that literally across the board, the majority of people who play football have CTE. Even as far down as 7th grade.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, CT money, that's stands for
Chronic traumatic encephalopathy. Encephalopathy.
Dot.
Yeah. Encephalopathy. Say it like Mike Tyson.
So let me tell you that story about Christopher Columbus. Let me tell you just something else.
Okay.
An significant thing to ever happen in our species.
Non-internet porn?
But it's just porn in another medium.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, internet porn is just a matter of degree. Not a matter.
Yes.
Does it exist or does it not?
Right.
Okay. I think it was the most significant event to happen in our species.
Kind of amazing if you stop and think about the fact that at that point in time, other than the Native Americans who lived here who were living a nomadic tribal existence, very few people that had the wheel, that had firearms, that had all these things that had already been achieved in the rest of the world had made their way to this place.
So now watch. Okay. Here's how it worked. So you're gonna hear it. So I presume that you have some skepticism. Columbus haters out there. All right.
I don't really have any skepticism.
Okay, so let me describe to you why I think this is true, and then you can tell me whether you agree or not. We haven't settled down yet. Early humans, and we're basically wandering. We're following the herds, right? And an ice age means it is so cold that when the moisture evaporates from the oceans, goes to the clouds go over the land. It doesn't rain, it snows. And the snow falls and it stays. So the water that had lifted up from the ocean does not return to the ocean. It accumulates on the land. This accumulation, when it's significant and sustained, we call glaciers. Glaciers is not itself a snowfall. It is compressed snow that's basically changed state into this ice river that flows very slowly back to the ocean. But the oceans are getting drained faster than they're getting replenished. So during the Ice Age, the ocean levels dropped, exposing the Bering Strait land bridge between Asia, which is now Alaska, basically North America. Our ancestors who come out of Africa go into Europe. Some stayed, others kept wandering. Some stayed low above the Mediterranean, others went high. They populate Asia. They keep walking because there's a land bridge there. You go south of that point, the weather gets a little better. The Ice Age ends. The glaciers melt back into the oceans. The ocean levels rise, closing the land bridge, stranding a branch of the human species for 10,000 years. Those humans who made it across that land bridge and spread out into North America, Central America, South America, have only a few families as their parent genetic origin. Okay, it's like some research says it's like 8 family lineages populated the entire North and South American continents. Then the land bridge breaks. Now you have Europe, Asia, Africa, and North and South America, and they know nothing of one another. 2 separate branches of the human species. The Vikings notwithstanding, maybe they came over, they did. Even if they did, their influence was near zero relative to the Europeans. So we're talking about influence here. This is a branch. Had this continued, this is how you speciate. This is why the species on Australia, that's why you have mammals there, they have pouches, right? No other mammals do that. They split off and they evolved their own way. Okay, so 10,000 years is not enough to grow 3 heads or 12 fingers. But our species is separate. Now, Columbus crosses the Atlantic, makes contact with humans. This is the first time that has happened in 10,000 years. We have rejoined two branches of the human species. We are now one common genetic group. And that genetic crossbreeding now continues to this day. We fly to any corner of the world and mate. Okay? The mating already began immediately. Yes, there were diseases that Columbus brought to North America. Much written about that. Less written is that he brought syphilis back to Europe. The first cases of syphilis in 1492. And then the physiology of the natives dealt with that. Well, whether it mutated, there may be people who know that. I'm not among them.
That's fascinating.
But just look at the graph of reported syphilis cases in Europe. It all began in 1492. Came back. So what I'm saying is, this was a hugely significant event. The rejoining. You know who else has that problem? The Chinese. Yes. Yes. Yes.
So it's an Asian issue.
Well, so who stayed in England? Like, so you look at who populated North and South America after before the land bridge. It's whoever was right at the edge of Asia. Right. Then the land bridges. So Asians and North American and the natives of North and South America have more in common with each other because of this than most other peers and groups you might grab around the world. But my point is, obviously, there's a lot to blame Columbus for, but he just happened to be the guy who did it first. Europe was coming into the New World no matter what. Everybody was trying to find a faster trade route to the Indies. And so if it wasn't Columbus, it would have been Arnold Schmidt, whatever, it doesn't matter. Somebody did that. And the rest is, as they say, history. So personally, I think the most significant thing to happen in our species. Otherwise, we'd still be too stranded.
Like Australia is stranded, to see what would happen if this has gone on for hundreds of thousands.
If we had 100,000, that would have been a different story. Right. Your immunities would be different.
Well, that's a big concern for aliens, right? One of the big concerns is that there's some sort of virus that comes from something.
I think that's harder to tree would catch whooping cough. Not so good. We're two different species. So viruses tend to be very species targeted.
Yeah, but what about...
But they can jump species. Sure. They can jump species, but... So there's a jump mammal to mammal, there's a jump vertebrate to vertebrate. But, so, yes, that can happen. But the more different the life form is, it is sensible to suppose that the less likely you're going to share the same disease. That's all. But NASA, regardless, has safeguards in place in the event that happens. So it's called the Planetary Protection Program. In essence, it's a whole division of NASA. It's protecting Earth from bugs that could be coming from space on our own spaceship that we bring back. And it protects destinations from us. There's a certain sterilization levels that we evoke. The Cassini spacecraft, we plunged that back into Saturn in its depth when we were done with it, and ran out of money, we're done with it. Plunged into Saturn to vaporize. We didn't leave it in orbit around Saturn. Why? Because it might have crashed into one of Saturn's moons that might have life. And if someone had sneezed on the spacecraft before it got launched, we don't want to contaminate the life that we were later going to one day want to step.
Because they were worried about maybe hitting Europa or something.
Once it's dead and you can't track it or guide it anymore, then it's a wild card. It might hit Europa is a moon of Jupiter, but Enceladus, there are other moons that have sort of ocean water, the water moons basically. And
so the concern is that we would introduce life.
Suppose we did, it crashed, and then we can go back later and find life, and it has DNA just like here. Well, was it our life that we contaminated with? You don't want to confuse the future science. So that's
Can you even watch a science movie, a science fiction movie? I know you had a real problem with gravity.
Yeah, all right, so let me set the record straight. Okay. I've been deeply misunderstood with my comments. Deeply misunderstood. Deeply. And so I've just stopped. When was the last time you saw the movie coming? We haven't. Yeah. I kind of just stopped.
Wasn't the Matthew McConaughey movie? Did you comment on that one?
Was it on in any big way? Right. Yeah, I'm done. Because people then thought I was just being nitpicky. Oh, it's not fun going to movies with you. Why would you do? Oh, yeah. Tyson will just say that can never happen. And so my intent did not match how people receive my intent. My intent is, here's an observation that I think if you understood this, it would enhance your appreciation. Let me give an example. Star Wars: The Force Awakens. They've got
What was that?
That's the one that introduced BB-8. Okay.
Is that the most recent one?
No, it was like 4 movies ago. As I've lost track because there's another
Yeah.
one. Okay, so the one that introduced BB-8, cute as okay, cute little fella, and in there they have the updated Death Star.
Right.
Okay, remember the old Death Star? It has enough power to destroy a planet, and that's devastating. This one, it can suck energy out of a star, so that the star no longer exists. Then it can take these energy beams and kill 6 planets at once. It's no longer just a 1 planet kill, 6 or 8, whatever the number was. It was like high single digits. Okay? Well, I did the math on this. And I tweeted. And I said, first, if you take all the energy from a star, you become a star. But let's know, maybe they've got a containment mechanism. I'll give it to them. It is the future, after all.
It is the future.
But whatever. Okay.
I'm going to galaxy far away.
Yeah, it's another universe of civilizations, okay?
Yes.
But they have light speed and we don't, so it's the future of our technology, even if it's the past of our time. Let me pause on that one. So you do the calculation, it's stored in a star. That's enough energy to explode 1,000 planets. Oh my gosh, they underrepresented the energy that it sucked out of the star. And I thought, this could have been more badass than even they came up with in this movie. That is the nature of my comments. Not, could this happen, could it not happen?
Let me give you a perspective.
Okay, all right, so 20% of people just get pissed off. 80% really like it and they want more, but that 20%, they cut me no slack. And I'm only doing this for people to enjoy. And if I have that level of hate mail, I don't need to continue it. I'm trying to basically stop. I'll have these thoughts to myself, but I don't have the urge to share them. I still have the thoughts.
I got to teach you the art of post and drop. Okay? This is what you do. Post something, you know you're going to get mad, drop your phone.
No, I
got to look human being.
No, I get that.
But you don't, because you're still changing your behavior.
Here's
It's
my
like
rebuttal.
morons.
Here's my rebuttal.
Rebuttal.
My rebuttal is, if you're watching a movie, it takes place in 1958. It's a period piece. And there's a car from 1960.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's crazy.
And someone who's a car expert points that out and says, hey, he's an expert. That's pretty good. Do you complain that the person noticed that? No. You praise their expertise.
I get mad at the movie.
If you get mad at the movie, if you're watching a Jane Austen period piece and 1870, whenever they took place, and someone gets out of the carriage with tie-dye bell-bottoms, you would cry foul.
Right.
That would take you, I'm exaggerating there, obviously. It could be a top hat instead of a derby.
Right.
You would cry foul if you were a costume designer. And we would all be impressed by that level of knowledge that you exhibit. I am bringing a level of science to bear on a movie that is no different from anybody else's expertise who is out there that we have praised for that invocation. Yet people are not granting me that latitude to make those comments.
So I don't like these generalizations. I don't like this.
It is true.
No, but I don't like what you're saying. People are not doing this. No, a small vocal minority that are assholes. And those are the people that you're altering your behavior for. That's what I think is ridiculous about this.
No, because
Most people enjoy it. They hear you talking about gravity and the fact their hair wouldn't do that and the space stations weren't that close together.
Right. You see it in the sky. My
Yeah, it's
gosh. Right. But
it's assholes.
no, I my tweets are authorized.
Yes.
But I'm not. I don't.
The problem is you're reading
force feed.
responses. That's the problem. The only problem is you're reading responses.
No.
What you're doing is wonderful. You're educating people.
20% freak out is high.
What the fuck is 20%?
Listen,
I can't even believe those numbers.
Here, man. When it's 5%, then I take that.
But you say 20%, like when you do calculations, you're actually doing
I scanned 100 of them. I see 20 of them.
You just run into 20 assholes. So 20 assholes out of the millions and millions of people that follow you have decided to reach out, and you're altering your behavior for assholes. I like those quotes. I like when you break things down, because I didn't know those things. I like thinking about like the hair and gravity. It was like, oh yeah, the fucking shit. We stand straight up.
And the only reason why I mention about here, because every photo of anybody with long hair would have a view, but anyone with long hair in space, it's standing up on edge. It's a completely obvious thing.
Yeah.
That was omitted from the filming of Gravity.
Yeah, but you have to have hair and makeup. You have to have a reason to exist.
So what I might do, I might take a poll. I might
Polls.
Stop! I'm a servant of curiosity. I don't want to force feed
You
curiosity.
don't have to listen to your feed.
I don't want
have
to force
read it.
feed
You're
anybody.
not force feeding anything. You're putting offerings out there, like you said. It's not force feeding. You're not knocking on someone's home. Wake up, bitch. Read my shit.
That is true. I'm not forcing
You're not
myself
doing
on
that.
your property.
You're not doing it at all.
Then put the shotgun down. You're gonna talk about your.
Listen, man.
I said about BB. First, I said BB is way cuter than R2D2, and I used like 5 A's, right? Just to start a fight, because that's a fun fight, right? Then I said, by the way, BB-8, a smooth metal rolling spherical ball, would have skidded uncontrollably on sand. And the whole movie is moving around on sand.
Right. Yeah, it would.
Yeah.
That's why you deflate your tires.
That's why you deflate your tires, to drive on sand. That's correct. If you ever tried to ride a bicycle on sand, it's awesome. And imagine, and that's with rubber tires. Imagine steel tires.
You tried running on sand, dude? Holy shit.
My gosh. Oh, yeah.
One of the hardest things you can do for
Talk about getting
exercise.
in shape, right? So it will work if you have a hard surface just below it, the dusting, which is saying of sand. Right. Then you can
You can dig into it, the sand off,
and then
it's resistant.
the sand then connects to the hard surface. So I posted this, and so you're ruining the movie for me. You're ruining it.
Assholes. Again, when you say people, you're just listening to assholes. Smart people are gonna read that and go, oh yeah, this is stupid.
Yeah.
Give that fucking thing some track.
You know what's actually happening as a result? I think I'm getting phone calls from producers.
Oh,
There's
that's good.
a little bit of science. We want to make sure that you don't tweet about it.
Come on, man, that's good. That's good. You're keeping them on point.
As you know, I might be most famous among the movie commentating for the final scene of Titanic. Okay.
What would you say?
Okay, so we know where the Titanic sank, longitude and latitude.
Yes.
We know what time of day.
Oh, so
what time
stars.
of night. So at the point of view of Rose, as she's looking up to Lyris, left side of the sky, it was worse than that. The left side of the sky was a mirror reflection of the right side.
Did you call James
It was
Cameron?
lazy. I call it back in 1996. I saw it when it first came out. I noticed instantly. And because I know the sky, this is what I
Yeah.
okay. So no reply. 5 years later, I bumped into him at a meeting. NASA hosted a meeting with some explorers and some scientists. I brought it up to him. He says, well, at the time I was not overseeing post-production, and that's when we had it. I immaturely wanted to grovel at my feet for forgiveness. Did you believe that? I wanted to, but that's not what happened. So then 5 years after that, I brought it up again when I bumped into him. And then he said, last I checked, Titanic has earned more than $1 billion worldwide. Imagine how much more it would be if I got this guy.
That's a stupid answer from an asshole.
They
should be tweeting you.
No. So
That is an asshole answer.
Listen,
That's an ego answer.
but it's not the end of the story. So that was okay. I had nothing.
The same amount of money. If you did that, that's true, but that's not the point.
But he's
Right,
right.
you fucked up, bitch. You fucked up. Say you fucked up. Don't say how much money
A
you made.
week later, I get a phone call. Hi, I forgot to say, Johnson. Hi, John. How can I help you? Is this the Dr. Tyson? I said yes. He said, I work post-production for James Cameron. he's producing a director's cut where he's adding new footage, and he tells me you have a sky you can use. Yes! Oh! So, the centennial release of Titanic, released in April 2012. That's right. Yes. So, how do you dig up that? There was April 2012.
I feel like you and I had this conversation.
I think we might have. But just in context now, it's got so he actually put it. So he did come through. So here's what happened. Seth MacFarlane called me and said, "I'm making a movie about talking teddy bear, and I need to know the sky over a town outside of Boston in 1985 on Christmas Eve, looking northeast. You got a sky?" I said, "I'll get back to you." Half hour later, I sent him the sky. That was the sky that the kid wished on where Ted came from. So Ted had the correct sky, and Titanic did not. So it's good. And you're correcting the Ted 1, Titanic 0 on that. Right. So the point is that people started thinking about it. And the highest compliment I ever got was Andy Weir, who wrote The Martian. He said to himself, while he was writing the novel, he said, because he's an engineer, so he has the fluency, and he's also a tough writer. He's right creatively. He said, if Tyson look at what he tweeted about this one. And so that put him on notice to make sure that his calculations were accurate. And The Martian is one of the most entertainingly accurate explorations. How to invoke science to not die if there never was a drop.
Just think about it like this.
Boom.
Boom. Walk away.
Walk away.
Just go do something else, man. You don't need to look at that shit. You don't need to look at what people are going to say. Make sure that there's no typos. That's always a struggle.
Mike, no, yeah, it is. Isn't that me? I got a fat thumb.
Me too.
I care, though, about how people can think about what I wrote, if it's a way that I have not considered.
Okay.
I like knowing it makes me a better communicator when I'm in front of an audience. I'll know what to be more precise and to, as we say in physics, to reduce the impedance between the signal and the receiver, so that there's a better match between the communicator and the audience.
I understand that, but if you see...
You surely have told jokes that people just took the wrong way.
Oh, yeah.
Without your intent.
The right way. They just didn't like what I'm saying.
Oh,
yeah. But it's surely, like, you see the word cuck in a response, you know that person's an asshole, right? There's certain things you just see, like, you're a cuck. Like, okay, I don't have to listen to you. I know what you are. You're a fool, right? You see that. Like, yeah, you spend all the time staring at the fucking sky instead of fill in the blank. Those are just assholes.
Well, I have pretty thick skin, so it's not that it upsets me. It's that I'm here to serve you, not to piss you off.
You're not there to serve
I'm
you.
an educator.
There's some people.
I'm an educator.
They're looking to get angry.
I get that, but maybe I can bring him around.
Yeah. The arrogance of thinking that you can fix 30 plus years of worthless shitbag living with a couple of tweets.
Okay. You know something? I don't even want to take you up on that challenge, Chris.
But for most people, myself included in those most people, I enjoy those tweets.
So I got
on something.
Here's one. So I tweeted something, and somebody responding to somebody else's tweet said, you know, I don't really like Tyson. He's so pompous. Okay. So I tweeted back to that person, and I said, thanks for the most pompous thing you've ever seen. Damn, you would have to be reading my tweets, would you? Now you put me on the spot. I can't think of anything right now, but overall, I really like your work. You can't put nothing.
Yeah, that happens all the time. People just shop.
Well, plus, people can get into a stereotype mode where there's, well, that person is that, and therefore everything.
They just decide.
That's the way they decide.
Yeah.
They decide. Right.
You can't listen. You're too smart for this.
And other people said, look, the dude wrote a book called Astrophysics in a Hurry.
Yeah.
You think, how pompous is that?
That's not pompous at all.
Right.
You're a science educator.
I interviewed on Star Talk. Yes, you were one of my guests, but so too was Katy Perry.
There you go.
The people got pissed off because she did nothing to add. She just popped up. I said, she wrote a song about boning an alien. I wanted to find out what she was thinking. Yes,
Did she
write
it?
It's her song. She has a line about it where she's making love to an alien. So there's always ways you can
fuck Russell Crowe a few times. Or what's his name? Peters. Sorry, Russell.
I don't. Yeah.
Brand. What is it?
Russell
Peters?
Brand?
Russell Peters. Russell, what's up? Russell Peters is a good friend of mine. He's like, Joe, what the fuck? Sorry, Russell.
I don't keep up.
It's been a long day.
Sex lives.
Just get back to the middle.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to keep you awake for your
Russell
audience.
Brand. Russell Brand. Sorry. Fuck Russell Brand. Say it.
I didn't know. I didn't follow. I didn't know any of this.
You're married.
I didn't know.
So he's like an alien. That's my point. It's a very odd duck.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. He's a brilliant guy, but he's out there.
He'd be like one of those guys that would be in Men in Black, aliens that they're tracking. Do you remember that scene in the headquarters? There's a big
undercover aliens.
Yeah, they're tracking all aliens. Yeah, like Michael Jackson was there. People who just there's something a little different about it. So
there's people that really do believe that. Believe that there's aliens amongst us.
again, we live in a free country. Fine. But
well, you know what happens?
Evidence at some point should matter.
You find out about like Russian agents that have been living in like New Jersey for like 30 years.
That's the whole premise of the show.
Americans.
The Americans, yeah.
Well, it's a real story too. I mean, it really has happened on multiple occasions. So they wonder if the Russians were the aliens were.
Yeah, so just find it.
Yeah.
Maybe they're arguing.
Are you open-minded to that?
Of course. Oh my gosh. No, who doesn't want to meet the aliens?
Wish.
I would love to meet the aliens. They're going to have technology that we don't have. I want to compare notes. I want to. Oh my gosh. Oh, by the way, in the movie Arrival, with the
Which one?
arthropod alien.
Okay. There's two arrivals.
Well, there's an earlier Arrival with Charlie Sheen.
Yeah,
He played an astrophysicist.
That's a good one too.
So this one, it's like the septopus glands.
Yes.
Yeah, 7.
Freaky things that speak in ink.
Okay, speaking ink, right? So, so they sent a physicist and an anthropologist, not an anthropologist, a linguist, and I tweeted. I said, if aliens come, I would not send a physicist and a linguist. I would send an astrobiologist and a cryptographer. But then the linguists got all upset. They started piling on.
The linguist piled on.
Yeah. She's not a linguist. She was if you're an anthropological linguist, where they all are. But just look up at the time what her profession was. But anyhow, so they all piled on. But that's what it's acceptable. Because how many linguists are ever shown in a film? So this was their time in the sun. This was their big moment. So I get it. That's one. But there are a couple of things. So, for example, there it is making these circles and interpreting them, but it's making them on glass. So how do they know we weren't seeing the mirror image of what it was trying to communicate? That was not addressed in the film. But, yeah, I want to meet the aliens as they did there. They brought the military, of course, that would be a likely fact, but because your protection is of extreme importance. But this happens in all sci-fi movies. You go up to this thing and you get lifted up against the force of gravity. At that point, I would just put down all my weapons because there's stuff going on that's way beyond your understanding of the laws of physics.
Yeah.
It's like pulling out your pistol and shooting at the spacecraft that crossed half the galaxy to come to you. What are you doing? They're clearly superior to you in ways that you don't even know yet. So just find another way to do your talking rather than sending bullets their way.
But isn't that always the case in every film? I mean, it's always part of the narrative is that the primitive people fuck it up. The advanced civilization is coming here to help us.
Yeah, it's never been good for the less technologically advanced civilization.
Ever. Yeah. Right. And going on right now, currently.
Yeah, by the way,
undiscovered tribes.
Not to sound pluggy, but one of the profiles here is a Captain Cook. This is a quick thing. I've visited Hawaii a couple of times in my life. One of the times I saw Don Ho in the show. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And he was like, when he sat down, he was like big and heavy and old. He died a couple of decades ago. But anyway, Don Ho. He just tells Hawaiian stories, and one of them was about Captain Cook. And Someone asked, well, whatever happened to Captain Cook? You know, he replies, he says, nobody's ever seen him.
The people listening, speaking, things he's picking things out.
Nobody's ever seen Captain Cook.
Yeah.
Pacific neighbors.
That happened to a lot of pirates.
So watch what happens. So the Brits sent Captain Cook to the South Pacific. You look at his marching orders, there's what's called a transit of Venus that's going to take place, visible only from the South Pacific. This is where Earth in our orbit and Venus in orbit are such that when Venus passes between us and the Sun, it actually is exactly between us and the Sun, watching the circle across the Sun's surface.
And then look at that through the fire.
Yeah, that device, that filter. Okay? So, if you measure that, you can learn the exact scale of the solar system. So you learn deep scientific knowledge about how far away the planets are and how far away the Sun is from the Earth. It was not known with precision before that measurement was made. So Captain Cook goes on this voyage to do this. Well, it's a pretty expensive voyage. Oh, wait, flip over the marching orders. Oh, open the envelope. But while you're there, use these new navigation techniques that use the sun, moon, and stars and map every coastline and bring that information back to us. Within 10 years of Captain Cook navigating the South Pacific, as well as the northern coast of Australia and New Zealand, within 10 years, Britain took control over those coastlines. Became part of the British Empire. Hegemony at its finest. On the premise that he's observing something about the universe, but there was a tandem role that he played.
Knew accurately that could be
Part of the motivation of knowing any of this was navigation around the globe. It was navigation. How are you going to know where you are on Earth? You can get your latitude. That's just the altitude, the height of Polaris, the North Star above the horizon. Measure that at night. You can make that long. Where do you know where you are in longitude? Ships would be shipwrecked. Millions of dollars worth of commerce would be at the bottom of the ocean because they didn't know where a coastline was. The only way you can measure coastline is if you have good navigational tools and tactics, which involves an accurate chronometer, a timekeeping device for your, and knowing what the sun, moon, and stars are doing in your sky. So the astronomer in that day was crucial to the mapping of the Earth. And who's mapping Earth? Is it just geologists for fun? No. It is nations wielding power over regions beyond their own coastlines. And I have a quote here. That's where this quote comes from. I got a guy from 1757, James Ferguson. 1757. Here's his quote. Of all the sciences cultivated by mankind, and the most useful, for by knowledge above their low, contracted prejudices. That's why I got to drop a mic up there. Boom, drop that mic. So, notice he lists mapping the Earth first. Then he talks about how it exalts in our grandeur. So, it's an exercise in dominance, hegemony, power.
under the guise of studying.
Well, it's not so much.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Part of it.
it's part of it.
And they use the sextant for all this.
So, sextant helped was an octant a little earlier. The Muslims used an astrolabe. Okay, you've got. By the way, what's the number? It's a third. I forgot the fraction. Around a half of all stars that have names in the night sky have Arabic names. Because in the golden age of Islam, 1,000 years ago, navigation was a big deal, and they navigated using astrolabes, which is sort of the Islamic counterpart to the sextant and octant. The rest of Europe, astrolabes are gorgeous. Oh, and they're works of art. They're brass. They're etched. There's variety.
I sell them.
You can buy replicas. Right?
See, find astrolabe.
Yeah, astrolabe.
See what that looks like.
Oh yeah. So there's a thing that hangs down. There are different discs that you can replace depending on where you are on Earth to know where you are more accurately. So this is all navigation.
So it was almost like chips for a GPS device.
Yeah. So yeah, they're gorgeous. They're completely gorgeous.
Wow. What the fuck?
Yeah, you carry
if you
with
found that somewhere, you go, okay, aliens.
Yeah, exactly. If you didn't otherwise know your history. And
Look at that.
The size of that, that's about the size of a heavyweight champion's buckle.
So what is that thing doing?
So yeah, it depends on where you are on Earth. That's what I'm saying. So we're talking about this was 1,000 years ago. This is 700 years ago, 600 years ago. The Ottoman Empire is spreading their influence, and they've got astrolabe. So this is Islam. And you don't even learn about this in school. You only hear about the rest of Europe, Christian Europe. So this
That's incredible looking device.
yes, and these are dials that turn.
Looks like a tribal tattoo. It doesn't even look like there's a rhyme or reason to it. With all the claws and everything, it completely looks like art. It looks like some bizarre.
Or it looks like an alien. So again, if you're only listening, just Google astrolabe and look at any of it. That's a more primitive one there, a simpler one. And so that's 1602. So so that one. That has the spirit of an astrolabe, but I don't know that if they would have called that an astrolabe. The others, they go way back. The point is, GPS is no different from the navigation tools in concept for the navigation tools that Captain Cook invoked for Britain to then take control over all the South Pacific that they did. It is, where are we, and do we know this information with precision? And what happens if an enemy force takes out our GPS? And we have so much dependent on it. What are we going to do? We've got people now working on using NavCosmic. They're sending highly timed pulses that reach Earth in different places on the sky. And by measuring them, you can, and the time delay between one and the other, you can actually localize yourself on Earth's surface with extremely high precision and without any use of satellites. That's the future of navigation, where you are insulated from a rogue nation that might want to take out your satellites. Pulsars. And by the way, the Trump Space Force, there are a whole lot of Trump haters out there. But if you want to hate Trump rationally, you want to not hate him no matter what he says. You want to evaluate statement by statement what he says, right? That's what you need to do. He says, I want a Space Force. Well, let's think about that, okay? In the Second World War, there was the Air Force, except they were not their own branch. They were part of the Army. It was called the Army Air Force. And then we realized that command and control in the air needs different kinds of soldiers, because they have to be pilots. It's a different kind of decision making, different kinds of tactical actions you would have in the theater of operations. And so it was sensible to spawn off a new branch of the military, the Air Force. No one today would question whether you should know that operations in space, in the vacuum of the universe, is a different regime that you're operating in from moving through the air. Your hardware looks different. Your strategies are different. Your command and control is different. So it's not a crazy, just because it came out of Trump's mouth doesn't make it a crazy idea that you might want a Space Force. In fact, I had proposed a Space Force in 2001 when I was on a commission appointed by George W. Bush to explore the future of the United States aerospace industry, a commission of 12. So I put it on the table. We have Air Force generals there, former members of Congress, people from Lockheed Martin, and people said, well, the Air Force is currently overseeing space, United States Space Command. So everybody was happy with it, and so I applied. I said, okay, it's not really bad. But as long as the needs of our presence in space grows, but more importantly, the size of our assets, as long as that continues to grow, what else would a military do beyond protecting your borders? They would protect your assets. And those space assets, day by day, are growing by leaps and bounds. So it's not
assets being satellite
station, and the value of those. It's not just the cost of the satellite; it's the value that's the satellite to you. The military is now creating a whole other GPS system that will be exclusive to them, and then they're going to seed the current GPS too. And what have we done with GPS? This hard-earned engineering and physics and orbital mechanics. What have we done with the GPS? We now use it to find out who we want to mate with.
Oh, someone's in the area.
Yeah, this is Tinder. This is Grindr. This is show me mateable people within 20 square blocks of where I am. That's a GPS.
Mate on Grindr.
I did look up the definition. Mate implies you're making a baby.
Yeah.
Okay. Who are you gonna have sex with? Fine.
Yeah.
So that has a certain economic value to society. So does Uber. So do all the things so does UPS tracking your trucks.
Yeah.
So it's not the cost of the satellite, it's the value of the satellite to our economy. We want that protected.
Makes sense. Is there a Space Force currently? Like, is it real?
There's the United States Space Command. So
is there anybody who's a general?
if we make a space, the generals in the Air Force oversee the Space Command. So if you're going to Space Command to this U.S. Space Command primarily, to the Space Force, and then add or subtract from that in whatever way is sensible to need. If we have a Space Force, you know what I want to see? I want them to protect us from asteroids. How about that?
Yes,
program.
that makes sense. Okay. You want the government involved in that? Should it be something a little bit more thorough?
That's not how it works.
It's not scientists.
You just made a blanket anti-government decision because you're just an anti-government guy. Okay, so private enterprise is not good at doing expensive things that have never been done before.
Right. You government money.
Government does it first. Okay?
Right.
Then you learn where the hostiles are, where the friendlies are, what patent did you need to make this happen. Then the venture capitalist meeting about whether I'm going to make a buck on it has some teeth in it. They say, how much will this cost? Well, we know because the government did it. And we think we can do it for half that price. Is it dangerous? Yes, the government did this and they lost 2 people, but we will put protections in so we won't have that risk. What is the return on the investment? The government got no return because that wasn't the objective, but here's how we can bring it. So I'll do it second, I won't do it first. This is how you get the Dutch East India Trading Company. They were not the first Europeans to the New World. Because where's the edge of the earth? Will you find India? Where will you? What? You don't know any of this. I'm screaming at you, sorry. You don't know any of this. Columbus does it first. And he can tell you where there's food and where there isn't, and where there isn't, and where they want to kill you and where they don't. Then you hand that information to the mercantilists, and they make a book after the fact. So they come in. Yeah. That's how you do it. That's how modern airplanes came about. People making planes in their garage, the government said this could be a cool thing. Let's pay them and have them compete to carry airmen. New kind of mail. Mail delivered by air. Oh, that's cool. So now I make an airplane because I want the contract. You say, no, you want the contract. You make an airplane that has more cargo, a better engine. You're clever. Now you just took the contract from me. Now I make a bigger airplane. And I said, oh, I see we did there. Now I can improve on that. Now, wait a minute. I don't even carry mail. I can carry people. Thus is born. Their government basically bankrupt. As did prize money for accomplishing certain achievements. Like Lindbergh, no one talks about the fact that there was cash money available to him for having flown across the Atlantic solar first. Cash money. Yeah, did it. As most of them did. Fly the longest, the highest, the fastest. Each of these had money associated with it. So this drove the marketplace. It was not whether you could make a product out of it initially, because you got to get over the early humps. You got to get food. You got to know what it is that works and what doesn't.
So, is there a plan with the Space Force? Like, are they going to make space weapons, spaceships?
There's a treaty.
Plug it, baby.
No, I feel so.
Let me hold it.
No, yeah, you hold it. Yeah, I just feel, but it's the unspoken alliance between astrophysics and military. You look beautiful with that.
Thank you.
Primarily because there's a bow and arrow being shot by Sagittarius that became a weapon, a missile. And you're a bow and arrow. Best of chat. Freaking bow and arrow back. Yes. I'm afraid when zombies come and you run out of bullets,
The zombie son, I'm from the sword.
Yeah. So, what was I saying before I interrupted myself? Space Force. Who's paying attention at the
Weapons.
Weaponizing space. So there's an outer space treaty for the peaceful uses of outer space. And it was in 1967. There's some modifications since then, but that's the basic one. And we are signature to it. So are the other major countries.
Yeah, see, we just break out the Paris Accord, just break out that goddamn space pussy shit.
It's a beautiful document. It tries to be very forward-looking. If there's an astronaut from another country who's at risk, then you will go to help them without question. It's very kumbaya. Okay. So one of my sort of, now that I'm old and tired, and I'm just a realist, is why should we promise to not kill each other in space when we are not successful in doing that here on Earth?
And we don't even promise to.
We'll kill each other, but in space we'll all hold hands. I don't have that much confidence in human conduct. I become cynical over my years, and I'm angry. Demonstrate to me that on Earth you know how to not kill one another. Then I'll believe your space treaty. That's all I'm saying. Now, given that there is a treaty that says you can't put heavy weapons in space, as I detail in one of the... Oh, by the way, I have a co-author on this. I started doing this 12 years ago. It was like, I will never finish a long-time editor of my essays that I've written. But leaving out certain details that would require the nitty-gritty of sort of research just to get the right numbers, the right year, the right commander, and like this. But I know broadly how it happened in the sequence. And so then she would take that and shape that into a chapter. Other places I would say, this happened, and that happened. She would say, well, that wouldn't fit the narrative as it's coming together. Let's drop the middle one and take the other two. I say, great. So I'd write that up. She would stitch it. She would graft it, is a better word, into the rest of what was going on. So this is, even though there are places here where I speak in first person, it's a co-written project. It's not ghostwritten. It's not, I'm just putting my name, but somebody else wrote. I mean, I write. So we're co-authors of this. But thanks for asking. That's good. So here's a problem that we detail here. People say, I don't want weapons in space. Okay, there's nothing more useless than a space weapon relative to Earth's surface. Okay, if you're in space, you're in orbit. I'll take you through it. I use your skull here. Okay, this is Earth. Okay. Everything more spherical here, I guess not. I'm using your skulls. Okay, right. So this is Earth. Okay, and I've got a satellite in orbit around the Earth. Okay, and I say, okay, I want to weaponize the satellite, put a bomb in it, and I want to drop over some city. Some bad person wants to make that decision, right? Well, what's the city you want to hit? Well, it's up here, so you can drop it halfway there. So you got it. Well, no, it's not just that. These are not very high above the planet. And so you have to change the orbit to align it so that it goes over your target. Satellites don't go over every spot on Earth. They only go over the orbit that had been preset for it. Okay. We can already destroy a city with an intercontinental ballistic missile, and we can aim that. We can aim a missile to any place on Earth. It'll get there in less than 45 minutes. And destroy the whole city with nuclear weapons. We can already do that. There is no advantage to putting nukes in space if that's your objective. Not only that, suppose there's a rogue satellite that is messing with you, it's beaming energy particles at you, and you want to take it out. How are you going to take it out? You're going to destroy it? Oh, now you break it into 1,000,000 pieces, 1,000 pieces. Now each piece is moving 18,000 miles an hour, and put your own satellites in place. That's the modern equivalent to in the First World War when they said, oh, we have a good idea because we can't shoot them in the trenches, let's gas them out. So they have the mustard gas. Oops, the wind changed directions. And all of a sudden what happened in space if you go in and start exploding satellites out of orbit. So war in space is a different thing. it's not what you think it would be.
So what would they do?
So the peaceful use of outer space treaty allows you to have defensive things in space, not offensive, for defensive purposes. It allows that. So,
Treaty aside, though,
yeah.
what could you do? Could you have
A rogue state could take out our GPS satellites.
Okay,
And render the military blind, and then you won't be able to pick up your Uber. You won't have anyone have sex with you. That's the range of stuff that GPS applies to.
right.
And so it'll affect our economy, it'll affect our security, and then our Navy can't talk to the Air Force can't talk to it, and that would be bad. Armies of wars are no longer fought just by how many soldiers have you lined up at the border. It's what have you done strategically to render your opponent, to weaken your opponent or render them incapable of fighting. This is why the attacks on September 11th worked. Because we had a policy that if someone wants to hijack a plane, you follow their instructions. You do not deny them their requests. Because the assumption was that if you deny their request, they will start harming people. And if you follow their requests, it will delay when they harm them, if they harm them at all, and maybe everyone will end up safe. It was not in the game plan that they would crash the plane on purpose. Okay? So, September 12th, you will never again be able to do that to an American plane. Forget the extra x-rays that we're doing. A pilot will never relinquish the cockpit, ever again. No matter who they're torturing in the back of the plane. No matter what they're doing, even if they're shooting people one by one. Because the plane going down takes everybody out. So that was a pretty easy door to close, literally and figuratively. But no one saw it coming.
You know what drives me crazy? When they put that train car in the hallway to protect the pilot.
I asked them about that. So it's just to delay you a fraction of a second to give them a chance to go in and walk them. But it's you have to get through them and the flight attendant. That takes an extra second. You can't just run in. Plus, they don't even allow you to stand in the aisle while it's happening. They tell you to sit down. Correct. So you have to get out of your thing, charge the cart, and get through the cart and the flight attendant, who will be fighting for their life at this point. Okay? And because the plane is everything.
Yeah, I've seen that opening though. Those lids and stuff. Nobody can really. It's physically.
Joe Rogan has already thought this through.
But it's an unfortunate thing that my mind does.
The point is, you can.
I would never do it for us.
You know what? I thought about that, but I thought to myself, the plane that way, because I was like, eyewitnesses September 11th, 4 blocks and 6 blocks away. 6 walking blocks, 4.
Did you actually witness that plane hit?
No, because my view was blocked from the south. So, but I have camcorder footage of the explosion. Big explosion I've ever seen. And by the way, one thing I noticed is that there was no shockwave. I might have been the closest scientist to the event. So all I could do was apply every bit of physics that I know. There was no shockwave. I said, well, how can I have an explosion with no shockwave? And I later learned if you make a deflagration wave, you atomize fuel and then you spark it. Then the flame moves across the fuel. It's not a shockwave. It's just a deflagration wave. But therefore, there's no shockwave. So windows are not blown out a quarter mile away as they were in Oklahoma City with the tenants and everything in the bay. Why am I bringing this up? Playing. Oh yeah. So here's something I calculated. I said if I was in a 767 and we're about to crash into a building, if I was in the last row of the plane, how much time would elapse before the front row crumbled and it met me in the back row? Given the speed of the plane going into the building.
500 miles an hour?
Yeah, well, it's probably slower than that by then. I would say closer to 400. It's a known speed, and I don't know, but I don't think it was this, because you can't turn at that high speed, and you have to like turn around and aim. So
it's about a second.
Less, half a fraction of a second. It's a fraction. So the question is, how long does it take a plane to go its own length? but it's going at 400 miles an hour.
Yeah.
That's what that. Yeah, it's a fraction of a second. So it's like, that's it. You can't even process that. So I figured the deaths were pretty quick.
It's
Yes, basically, you are pulverized pile of goo.
Are they planning on making spaceships that can shoot down other spaceships?
So any space wars would not be war between space and Earth. It's a space.
Here's another question. What do they do with all that stuff that's just floating around?
The debris.
Yeah.
How about another task of a space force? Why don't you clean up space for so that we can have tourism and not risk our lives by a paint chip or going 18,000 or bolt or nut moving at 18,000 miles an hour that'll put a hole straight through you.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, brought the scope of that to include protecting us from asteroids and figuring out a way to space.
Is there a concept in place?
No.
Boy, when you look at that map, and I know the map is not the scale, it shows you the known satellites in space.
Oh, well, it's to scale in the sense that they're there.
There's that many of them.
There's that many of them.
It's just
At those relative distance
yes.
to, but they have you can see their orbital line, so it feels crowded.
And continuing to launch new things up there.
And I joke, I say, one of the reasons why we've never been visited by aliens is because they came to us and said, what is all that? Shut what? Oh, crap, we're not risking out. Well, let's go on another planet.
They didn't know the map, wherever it was, to kind of calculate their
Oh,
incoming.
forget it. They'll just take on it's not worth it.
Yeah, when you're on your way in, you have to think about it going around.
If you were visiting another planet that had a civilization and they left a lot of crap in their atmosphere, you would, yeah, that's not the debris, those are the satellites.
Yes.
So, if you, no, that is debris. No, you got it. So the Air Force tracks debris, as does NASA. They both track debris. And sometimes launch windows of spacecraft.
Pieces of shit that's floating around.
Jesus.
Look at that. That's crazy. You scrolling through all that? Oh my god, that is so nuts.
Yeah.
We're so crazy. We've only been doing this for 60 years.
So you track it. Right.
When was the last first satellite?
For satellite Sputnik, excuse me.
What year?
Excuse me. How too far away from me to slap.
Sorry. Alright. When was it?
Sputnik, October 4th, 1957. The first artificial anything in orbit around the Earth. And on that day,
shit still up there?
there was only one thing.
One thing. Wow. From 57 to 2018.
Right. So that's 60 years.
Wow. And one thing. That's crazy. Now, how many things?
Well, there's
Yeah, yes.
the countless debris. There's hundreds of active satellites. There's thousands if you include the dead ones. And yes, we have no way to clean it up. Maybe some big vacuum one day. I don't know, but
Yeah.
space vacuum.
It'd have to be valuable.
You could probably sell space debris if you brought it back to Earth.
Yeah, people are dumb. They buy it. What's the space debris in your house? Oh, hell yeah. Put this over here.
Speaking of debris, there was this asteroid that collided with Earth over Chelyabinsk, Soviet Union, in Russia, sorry, just near Siberia, in the Ural Mountains, just on the coast of Siberia, border of Siberia. That was visible to everybody in broad daylight, and you had to avert your eyes when it happened. And they felt the shock wave. The shock wave broke windows and sent 600 people, but nearly 1,000 people to the hospital. What happened? Well, because they saw the light and they got up from their table and went to the window to see what had happened. There's a time delay between the shock wave and the light. Light travels fast, sound travels slow. So go to the windows, and the shockwave hits, and it blasts broken glass into the face. So it's a big Band-Aid collision that we had. The injured people all needed basically Band-Aids. Okay, no one died, but nearly 1,000 people were injured. So at an auction, by the way, that actually exploded, and pieces of it were recovered. At an auction, I purchased a piece of that meteorite. What else I did? Some of the shards of glass that the shockwave. I got it. It's just I have it. A part of it is a shot across our bow, That's what that. Don't die.
But it's a warning.
There's no better way to be warned than to have a Band-Aid cover your injuries that could have vaporized you or rendered your species extinct.
It's crazy. It's the ones that don't even impact and still do devastating damage.
Yes.
To the blue sky.
Yes, that one they didn't touch Earth. Right. Right. They incinerated 10,000 square kilometers of forest.
That
Right.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So February 15, 2013, and there was a.
Weighs over half a ton. And that little rock was 1,000 pounds.
Oh yeah. Oh, and that's just the piece that made it through.
Is it iron?
Well, the actual piece would have been about the size of this room, so a small home.
Wow. So, but that's amazing that small rock. Go back up to that again, please. Look at the size of that. That's not that big.
No, that's what's left over. Most of it vaporized on the explosion as it came through the atmosphere.
Right, but they're saying that piece of it weighs 1,000 pounds.
Did they give the weight of it?
Yeah, it says it
okay.
weighs over a half a ton.
Yeah. Oh, half ton, yeah, 1,000 pounds.
That's crazy. Yeah. That rock is that fucking heavy.
Yeah, so the solar iron. Yes, well, I have to read that to know for sure, but I think it was an iron meteorite.
I'll tell you something.
What?
I have a slight knife that was made out of this.
Oh, that's do I.
Yeah, it's a kitchen knife that I use.
Oh, see, mine is like a crocodile Dundee. Yeah, but that's not a knife. That's a knife. But it's waiting. I want to get someone to make a handle for it. It's just the metal that would be that would then get it's a forged metal with the blade, but then you get a pearl handle attached to it. Basically. Oh yeah, it's a handleless, it's an unadorned piece of metal that would become a knife.
It's sharpened.
Oh yeah, it's
sharpened.
Oh yeah, where's it from? There is the metal handle. Have you ever seen kitchen knives?
Oh,
the metal goes all the way down the center of the handle, and you screw wooden handles on the side.
So you just need the wood.
I just need the wood, or if I'm patenting it with the pearl. I can think of revolver. Yeah, pearl pistol. Yeah. So, it's a part of history, and it's a reminder that if you want to think about the future of civilization, you have to include a defense plan against asteroids. Yeah. The dinosaurs, I bet if they could, they would have had a space program to not go extinct.
Now, is there anything that we're doing now other than we're occasionally looking up?
Yeah, we're monitoring and cataloging.
Yeah, but we don't really know what to do.
Yeah, so the day would come. Well, we know what to do. There's nothing fun to do. They're engineering conferences. How would you deflect an asteroid? How would you destroy an asteroid?
We see one.
If we see one,
and it's coming 100%.
You just kiss your ass goodbye. Right. We would have the power to tell you when you would die and what part of Earth you would hit.
There's people that have very delusional ideas about what we can and can't do with asteroids, and that drives me crazy.
Well, no, it's not that. We know how to. I've seen the engineering plans; they look very good, but there's nothing in place. Right. There's Project Sentinel, if you look it up, that has tasked themselves with organizing world governments to protect Earth from species killing asteroids. And you need the world because you don't know in advance until it's discovered what part of Earth it's going to hit, and it's going to hit in the Indian Ocean. And if the surrounding regions don't have a space program, are there countries that do have a space program going to sit idle? No, what you want to do is you want to have a fund, and every country pipes in a little bit of their GDP, and then or whatever. You measure it however you want it, whatever you think is fair. Do it the way the UN does. Okay, so there's a tax of the world relative to your life, and then that money pays to save the world when we find situation. That's how the Sentinel Project Sentinel has thought this through.
So if there were
engineers and scientists,
ample time, there's a possibility that they could actually hit the Sentinel.
It's all about how much time you have, because what you want to do is go out and nudge it a little bit. You just have to give it a sideways velocity relative to its path towards Earth. If you do that early enough, the sideways velocity sort of accumulates.
Right. Like a ship turning slightly in the ocean over the course of time and deviating quite a bit.
Correct. So that angle grows. But it's the same angle, but it spreads out. the ocean example is perfect. It's a perfect analogy. So if you do that early enough, you do it enough so that it misses Earth, and it's still out there. It can harm you in another day, but it won't render you extinct on that passage.
How much time do we need today?
If I would say we could probably get something built in 10 years.
Oh, Jesus. What? Neil deGrasse Tyson. What did you just do? 10 years? I'm looking for a boat.
And that's, no.
So it's a year. If we have a year.
The good thing about species-killing asteroids is that they're large and visible.
What about city killing? Oh, just slip through.
Yeah, they'll slip through. Yeah, but most of Earth's surface is not city, so it'll probably hit the ocean or land. But yeah, if it does, it would take out a city. Yeah. There's a branch of government, part of, I don't know if it survived the Trump changeover, but it's part of Homeland Security where it worries about devastation to a region where the grid is taken out as well. So you can't bring emergency services that bring either food, water, medicines, any other form of transportation or communication.
How much thought is there in putting in a more robust grid?
Yeah, what you need is, that's a good point. So you need a grid that can sort of rewire itself rapidly to then bring power to the region. That's what you would need. And they're sort of doing that now, making a grid sort of lightning proof, power surge proof. I grew up in New York City where there were a couple of very famous blackouts, 1966 and then 78, I think. And I was like, whoa, how is this even allowed? We don't have a backup plan. We don't have a way to rewire this, to redirect the electricity. So, yeah, you need that and you want that. And I thought the new grid is supposed to have those kinds of protections built into it. But I don't know enough about it.
One impact, big one, takes out the grid, and then what? Do you have solar power in place?
We just put in solar power.
You live in the city?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I have a place in the country.
Oh,
escape.
That's a good move. Have that escape spot.
Yeah.
You have a place in upstate New York?
No. It's yeah, I used to think of it as an escape because we thought of getting it after September. Got it. But now it's just a good place for me to refuel and do like the rain or sort of thing.
Look out for ticks.
Oh my gosh.
Long Island's overwhelmed with one.
I think they got a new tick apparently that prevents you from eating meat. I wonder if the vegetarians read that.
I think it's called the Lone Star tick. And it
prevents you from eating the meat of mammals.
Yes. It makes you allergic to alpha galactose. Is that what it is? It's alpha gal. Another great Radio Lab podcast.
Yeah, I think the vegans and the vegetarians,
you just still eat fish.
Yeah.
Still eat chicken.
Not eating animal.
They just can't eat red meat. It's something in red meat. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one of the challenges. Right. So,
goddamn ticks. They are everywhere. And we looked at it the other day. I have quite a few friends that have Lyme disease. It's something you do keep for life. And quite a few friends, like 7 or 8 at this point, that have devastated Lyme disease. It's all East Coast.
Yeah, they're making love and brush. They just walk
for a hike.
Yeah, I'm a city person, so even though I moved to the country, I go for a hike on my deck.
That's what you don't go anywhere?
No.
Sit back,
just look out.
Yeah, you're out there in this gorgeous country. Don't you want to go wander around a little bit?
No. It's honestly not a thought. My wife who's from Alaska has those thoughts all the time. But the power of ticks overwhelms her power of curiosity.
Those are powerful people in Alaska. It's a different type.
Yeah, they're bred differently.
Oh, they're strong. Those people can survive. And they have a sense of unity up there. It's really interesting.
That unity, I think, comes from the fact that they're all in the same risk factors together.
Yep.
And if you and I have the same thing that can kill us, that makes us friends.
It's also they're overwhelmed by nature. It's like they're overwhelmed by both its beauty and just the sheer evidence that you're insignificant.
I would say they're not overwhelmed, they're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
There's the right amount of well.
I have a buddy of mine who lived up there. A grizzly bear killed a moose in his driveway.
Ooh,
What?
right. That's the kind of stuff.
What? In the driveway. They had to be careful, like getting out of the house, because the bear had cashed the moose.
When we first went up there, my brother-in-law, my wife's sister's husband, kept a loaded shotgun over their bed, so that when the door starts rattling in the middle of the night, the gun is in his arm's reach. And that was good.
Yeah. That was fun. You ever seen one in real life?
So, Green Captain.
Not a real one. Real one. There's a look.
Oh, no, I did. No. We visited Denali Park. But I saw this 500 yards away. It's not any closer.
Denali Park, they're a little bit ritualized too, right?
No. That's pretty wild.
Oh, Denali
I
Park.
confuse it with Jellystone Park.
I'm thinking something different.
You think of Jellystone Park?
Denali Park is, what's that near? What part of Alaska?
It's got Mount McKinley. It's got Denali Mountain in it. So where is it? It's I forgot geographically, but
that's not like near the Brooks Range, right?
No, I'm not mountain range.
There's just the sheer size of Alaska when you actually look at it over the United States, when you superimpose it, you go, oh,
yeah.
What?
You want to know another one?
Yeah.
The size of Africa relative to the United States.
Many times.
Oh, excellent.
Everything fits in there.
Everything fits in. Like 5 United States.
It's crazy. Well, literally everything fits in there. It's like most of the world fits in there.
United States plus Europe plus
Asia, China. Yeah, it's fucking crazy. It's a giant place. But what's really interesting about Alaska is how few people. It's such a large population density, so light. But Anchorage is a really cool city. Like if you go there, you're like, oh, this is a cool ass town. Nice people. But if you go there in the summer, bring some things to cover your eyes.
Oh, what?
So when you go to bed at night, you go to bed at the day.
Yeah. So my wife said in the winter when they go to school at dark, it's not nighttime, it's just dark.
Yeah.
They don't use light and day. It's just dark and light.
Yeah, because it's only light for a few hours.
Yeah, so there's light and then it's dark.
Did you ever see that movie? What was it called? 30 Days of Night? Vampire movie about Alaska.
No.
And vampires came to it. It's actually a pretty fun
One
movie.
vampire. I have nothing against them. They just don't
Like smart.
They don't call to me. They don't.
Can't put that.
I don't see the romance of getting bit.
Well, it's not romance. It's scary.
Actually, I think the what's that
Twilight series?
No, the other
Tell me like
the other series. Underworld. The Underworld series. I've seen a few of those.
Did you like those?
Those are fun.
Those are the dumbest ones.
Yeah, no.
Those are the ones that the Twilight fans make fun of.
No, I just like the fact that there's a lead woman kicking ass.
Oh,
I like
you're one of those guys.
women who kick
I
ass.
get it. Go ahead. Do your show.
I love women.
Put on your little show. Hey.
Kick ass. No, it's just fun.
Well, then you must love Alien, original Alien.
Yeah, but that's
We
good.
talked about Ripley from Aliens, Sigourney Weaver. She's the original female movie badass.
Well, no, they go before, and I just reminded myself of this. Is it Barbara Rigg?
Barbarella?
No, Barbara Rigg. She is her name. She was the woman in the original British series, The Avengers.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But that was hokey.
Yeah, but she was wearing black leather
That's
and
true.
knew martial arts and kicked ass.
Wasn't believable. But Sigourney Weaver was believable. Like when she's shooting that thing, like you bite, like look, she's throwing.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay. Listen, this to me is like to you when you're making fun of astrophysics mistakes that they make in these movies about space. This shit drives me crazy. People just flipping people through the air and kicking them when they fly off buildings. And stop. You're driving me fucking crazy.
Actually, I have a tweet. I forgot. I'll post it now. No, the tweet's too long. I gotta type
But you one of those dangerous guys that doesn't put a case in your phone. You have the fucking
I don't put a case on.
escape in the back on your phone. Your lock screen is the Stonehenge of Manhattan.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah, Manhattan. That's so sorry.
And you have no case in your phone, so you're risky.
Right. No. So you can think of it as risk taking, or when I got the phone, because I admire how thin this is. I like technology.
Yeah.
serving me. Okay, so what I did when I got the phone, I said, let me do this with it. Okay? Yes. And I reminded myself, why do in the military cadets, why do they twirl their gun? Of what possible value is this in combat? Why do they do these things with their gun? And then I realized you're not supposed to drop your gun. Ever. Ever. So if you twirl the gun and you don't drop it, it means stuff can happen to you in combat, and it is always attached to your body. So I said to him, so when I got my phone, I said, let me just do this. Okay, let me just do this. If I pick up the phone and drop it. Okay. So when you do that, then you never drop your phone. So it's not that I'm a risk taker, it's that I changed my risk to make it so low that it essentially won't happen.
And you got Apple Care. You get Apple Care?
No.
You didn't?
No.
You don't get Apple Care?
No. First, I fix my own damn computer. Second,
how are you going to fix your own damn phone? If the screen breaks, you're going to get in there with a screwdriver and pop that bitch out?
the key phrase is if the screen breaks.
Drop it.
That's correct. I also carry relatively expensive fountain pens.
What happens with that?
I never lose them.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
If you always lose your pens, it means you're not spending enough money.
Right, like sunglasses.
Exactly.
I've had the same pair of sunglasses now for a record number of times.
Right. Then it costs you $200 to get them.
Fucking lose them. They're just my favorite ones. I just got them for free. Shout out to Skeleton Sunglasses.
Oh.
Skeleton Optics. Zeiss lenses.
Zeiss. Zeiss.
Powerful fucking
They invented the planetarium projector.
Did they really?
Yes, they did.
They make some badass
1923. 1923.
Shout out to Zeiss. But I've had the same sunglasses now, I think,
You're doing well
for
here.
6 months. These fat, stupid fingers.
So once you get that, then it doesn't drop. So it's not that I'm a risk taker. I've changed the risk so that it's low enough so that it is on par with other risks that you take routinely. Also, the things if you pick up the phone with one hand and it's upside down, you hold it in places where the center of gravity flips it.
But you also have some sort of skin.
Oh, it's just the sector of vacuum starting. Yeah, but it's not. There's no texture to this. It's just a slippery. Yeah.
What is it? Oh, it's a skin.
It's skin.
Definitely more texture.
Yeah, let me see.
It's covered
Okay,
with
that's not
glass.
why it's there. The point is that's not why it's there.
No, maybe friction. As a scientist, you should
Okay.
recognize this.
Friction is good.
Yes, isn't it one of the things that they decided to do to asteroids to change their path? Spray some goo on them, and it'll literally cause more friction in the air and cause them to deviate slightly from their path over a long period of time.
I don't know where you just pull that out of your
Yeah,
ass.
this
That
was
moment.
spray.
In that moment.
No, I've read that. I mean, it was some dummy who wrote it, and I
In the
read it.
vacuum of space, there is no friction. So
But isn't there some shit they could put on if it's traveling, right? Isn't there something they could put on that would aerodynamically change its path?
in the vacuum of space, there is no aerodynamics.
Okay, so it's moving, but there's
By
not.
the time it hits Earth's atmosphere, it's too late.
So it happened. So there was a coating that they were planning on putting on some aspect of. Would it be the act of putting the coating on?
So what you would do is, what you may be thinking of, there's a coating you can put on an asteroid that differently absorbs sunlight relative to the other side.
Oh, so it causes a spin.
That can create a net, a vector of motion. And
Space raining asteroids can protect Earth from space rock threat.
Okay, so there you go.
That sounds like some clickbaity shit right there. That's some clickbaity shit. Okay.
Change the amount of sunlight reflected by the space rock. But you would not do that to the entire rock. You do it to a part of the rock.
Potentially nudging it away from Earth with the accumulated push provided by the many thermophotons as they radiate from the asteroid surface. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I didn't think that through very well.
And somehow you added KY jelly to this.
I'm sure it's false.
Yeah.
My friend Andrew Santino, he carries his pitch from case free. I admire him. He's a brave man and I.
So I sent you a list of topics. Did we hit all of them? Did we hit all of them?
We didn't hit innovation.
Here's one. Here's one. Yeah, let me just. Why it'll never be flying cars? Man, sure.
Nice. Okay, since we're 2 hours and 40 minutes in.
Is that allowed? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
No, but people don't have 3 hours to do they?
Oh, we do it all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, are you sure?
100%. Yeah.
This is not. You sure?
Yeah. Average podcaster.
Average. Really?
Yeah.
Dude, come on. Please, you're average.
The ones we've done, we've all been like close to 3 hours.
Okay. All right, here you go. Here you go.
What's that?
Okay, so let me.
I flipped it. I turned that